Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined right now, anyway, by Leo Vader. Hello. Hello from the booth, Matt Burtz.
Hello.
And JV Gwaltney.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. We have a lot to talk about on today's show and a big rotating cast. First up, Red Dead Redemption 2. Every 3 or 4 months, Rockstar gives a little droplet from heaven for everyone to kind of scramble over and try and figure out what the hell it means. So we're trying to analyze that trailer on the podcast. After that, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we promised it last week. Elise Favis actually went to Eidos Montreal, played the new game. She's going to talk all about it. I'm very excited. I know nothing. State of Decay 2, also, Brian Shea went on a big trip and played it, so we're going to dive in deep on that game. Then we're going to have Kyle come in and talk about some freaky games, like some VR game he's super into, and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, so he gets the exciting topics, but I think there's fun stuff to talk about there. Then great emails. Then back half of the show, holy cow, do we dive in deep on God of War. It is the grand finale for our God of War game club. So we're talking about everything from the point when you meet a character named Mimir, which is where we stopped in the first half, and now we're just spoiling everything. So stay tuned to that if you don't care about God of War, but you should, because it's very, very good,
really
and it's
should.
very easy to spoil.
Such a damn good game.
Yeah, but it's a fun deep dive, and everybody sticks around, which is a rare treat in Game Club. Okay, for right now, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
This new trailer. What do you guys think about this trailer strategy? I feel like it has been such a slow trickle of vague trailers of everybody trying to piece stuff together. Am I an idiot who just doesn't remember these events from 8 years ago when I first played Red Dead Redemption? Do you guys have a better handle on exactly what these trailers are revealing one by one?
I mean, we were
It's a
putting it
cookie
together.
cutter.
It
Yeah.
came together pretty quickly because, you know, I'd point something out, or Bertz would point something out. I'm like, oh, yeah, that guy from the first Red Dead, like Uncle, and Edgar Ross is standing in the background. And he's the bad guy from the first game with the bowler hat and the cigar.
Okay.
Yeah, you see a younger version of him. So it's like when you're looking at a painting and you're trying to pick out like all the neat little details, like every single shot and these trailers feels like that.
Yeah. It's kind of like a focusing of a camera lens where you see like the scope go in and out and you're waiting for it to kind of crystallize and like really see what the story is. And I feel like this one, we finally have a really good understanding of what the beats are, at least narratively.
So what did you learn from this trailer specifically?
So our theory before that it was going to be, you know, it's called Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not Red Dead Redemption the prequel, you know, so we were kind of still thinking framed narrative, maybe, you know, like we knew a lot of it took place in the, you know, more like Godfather 2.
Yeah, Godfather 2. Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
Pretty much at this point,
It feels like a straight prequel.
Yeah, it's clear this is a straight prequel, and it's kind of telling the beginning of the story of Red Dead Redemption, where you finished off the Vanderlyn gang in that game. This game is the beginning of the end for that gang. We're seeing like the entire trailer. You're seeing Dutch try to hold the gang together. You know, you get to meet the new villain who, man, did they go to villain school to design that guy? Like, let's give him a
like
black
he just
leather
feels
glove
like an evil fire and brimstone creature from like Blood Meridian or something.
All he's missing is a monocle, basically.
And so at some point they say Sons of Dutch in the trailer. Is that the name of the gang, or is it still?
They're kind of called the Vanderlyn gang. I don't know if that's the official name that they're calling themselves in this, but
I mean, like Old West gangs like had multiple names.
Yeah.
Though. Like so. Theoretically, this could be one of them.
But we got to see John Marston for the first time, so it is confirmed he is in this game. We also saw Abigail, his wife.
That's his wife. Okay, thank you. It's been a long time. Okay, so Marston, you can tell from the scars, he's like being tortured or something in the scene, or like held back.
Well, they're being hunted down in this game. That is what's happening. Like, you are a part of the gang. You know, you're playing Arthur Morgan. Maybe you're playing more of these people. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But they are being hunted down by the federal agents or the Pinkertons or whoever it is that's trying to eradicate, you know, the outlaws from the Wild West, which we saw the end of that play out where they used Marston as the weapon against the remaining ones in the last game. This is the beginning of that story.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I've gone from being sort of like lukewarm on the idea of a prequel because I've been replaying the original Red Dead Redemption for like the past couple of months or so, just dipping in and out of it. And like it's become more clear, like the story, whatever happens before Red Dead Redemption isn't just like back history. It's like, oh, this is the cause for everything. Like all these characters trying to escape the sins of the past. And you never really got an idea of what that was in the original game. Just sort of referenced like, oh, they did a lot of shitty things. But I'm really curious and kind of excited to see like in explicit detail, like how bad these people were. Like I want to see how awful John was before the original game.
That's going to be kind of fun. Actually, that's the first time I've got excited about this game story. I feel like, because I love that first game, but I'm still in that prequel meh camp, especially when this trailer opens and it's like, what, 1899? Is that the year?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the story's like, hey, the West is going away, folks. New age upon us. Like, I already played that. That was all of the last Red Dead Redemption. I don't want to relive that, like, oh, you old cowboys, city folks are moving in, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if they're gonna if like they're going to play with that a little bit, especially with like Morgan, because he seems like a super dull protagonist. So far to me, he just seems like, oh, here's a gruff sort of like minor. He'd be like the guy who dies right before the big baddie in a Western movie dies.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's just going to get snoked and like maybe we take over as John or something like in the game. I
don't
bizarre.
know. I mean, they've shown this female who we now know is one of the gang members. They show a scene where all the gang members are together, and it's a big gang. It's way bigger than the gang that we knew about from the first game.
It's the Infinity War cast, essentially.
So it's looking like there are a ton of new people in this game, and I'm wondering, like, do you control more than just Arthur Morgan? Like, is it not just about him? Is it about the gang?
Do you think Rockstar, Leo in the booth, do you think Rockstar would be so ambitious as to take the template from GTA 5 and, I mean, because we thought it was like, what, 7 people? But if it's beyond that, like let you jump between all those people?
I hope not.
Why is that?
I don't know. That'd be too much, I feel like. I'm just more interested in a story about one character than them trying to redo GTA 5. Plus, I feel like they talked about not wanting it to be necessarily their template going forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Leo on this one because like GTA 5, which is, you know, probably one of the biggest games ever in terms of like success and like, you know, especially technological innovation, I wasn't impressed with its story. And I feel like so much more of the love that people have for the original Red Dead Redemption is rooted in its story than it ever has been in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
So for them to sort of like embrace the Grand Theft Auto 5 formula of we're going to let you do so many crazy things in this beautiful, bold setting isn't necessarily playing to Red Dead's strengths.
Yeah.
Like I want to see them innovate with story.
Well, what do you think about, just to pull more from GTA 5, do you feel like casting us as more villainous characters who are up to no good, they have that line where it's like, oh, you gotta love yourself a fire in this trailer. Are they pulling a little bit of like that Trevor mentality from GTA 5, right? Of like, let players play they want to, let them be crazy because now you're these outlaws.
Not to switch to like God of War for a second, but
Please.
I feel like it didn't work for me for Grand Theft Auto 5. Like Trevor just didn't work. Like I got the idea that he was like the id of the player, but you know, to do that with Red Dead and have it as a prequel to the original game and have it in the context of like we know how these characters ultimately meet their ends and how like later on like John, for instance, is like, you know, going to feel like so much shame about everything that he's done. It's like a reverse God of War. You know, like we know the ending, you know, we know how it ends, but it's interesting to see like, oh man, no wonder John feels like shit. He was awful, or, you know, like this is why Dutch went crazy, or blah, 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 blah.
There has to be an event that triggers this. And I think Rockstar's savvy enough to know, you know, they've told some really good stories in the past, like Red Dead and GTA 4, which is an amazing story. There has to be an event that the blame is being put on this gang that for some atrocity that maybe they didn't do, just to make.
Why is that?
I just feel like you need people to root for these characters in a sense if you're going to spend that much time with them.
I don't necessarily feel like I agree with you up to a point. I feel like there does have to be an atrocity, but I do not feel like they necessarily they don't have to be like framed for it. I feel like if you have these characters do something awful, because there isn't a bit in the original Red Dead Redemption where John meets like a character everyone says is Death, you know, the stranger. He references John shooting like a woman on a ferry, like, or taking cover behind a woman and she gets shot or something. So, you know, I feel like if you go into this game with the knowledge that like John, and I keep referring to John, but like all these characters, you know, how they meet their ends, like that they pay for whatever they do in this game, it creates an interesting experience where like Rockstar can just have these people do shitty things. And it reinforced, you know, it might change our perception of the original Red Dead, but I think ultimately it enriches it one day or another while making this game stand out on its own in an interesting way.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think you have to make them likable.
Well, I think they're inherently going to be likable. I'm sure there's going to be like that campfire scene. Just seeing all those characters interact, I have faith that Rockstar can pull off some good interactions between those characters. And if it's just, I like these characters, I think they're funny, they're weird, they let me do crazy things, and they're being hunted by the man, like that feels like enough.
Maybe,
you know?
yeah, but you need to root for somebody. You know, like the new Netflix Western, what's that called?
Godless?
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Bridges is an amazing character. Or not Jeff Bridges.
The other Jeff.
The other Jeff Bridges. What's his name?
Isn't he the Dumb and Dumber guy too?
Yeah. Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels is amazing.
The other Jeff Bridges.
Wait, but what's so amazing about Daniels?
He's a terrible person in this that does terrible things, but like you're interested in his reasoning for why. You know, you're interested in his intellectual gymnastics he performs to kind of cover for the terrible things he does.
See, but like, I feel like that's not necessarily likable. That's interesting. You can have a character that's interesting, but not necessarily likable. And that's ultimately what I think.
Like, they need to be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because if you have a bunch of if you have Kane and Lynch, no one's going to give a shit.
Yeah.
Don't have Kane and Lynch, pro tip. So we watched that trailer as a big group this morning, all holding hands around the laptop. And the trailer ended and Jeff Cork just said, well, I can't wait for that open world. Like, Leo, did you have the same take where it's like, well, I just want to see gameplay already? Like, that's the thrill of Red Dead. It's like, out of 3 story trailers, I don't feel myself getting too excited at this point yet.
On some level, I don't need to see gameplay trailers before I buy it. Rockstar has certainly earned my trust by this point. But speaking of Jeff Cork, he actually wanted me to pass along a question.
Oh, no.
Will Red Dead Redemption 2 have a direct reference to Westworld in it, either in the campaign or in its open world? He wants to hear from the panel.
They can't resist it. I feel like Rockstar's really bad at resisting sort of pop culture references.
Even in Red Dead, like, they had those little movies and cartoons, but are there any huge pop culture references in the first Red Dead?
There's an entire mission that cribs on the Wild Bunch.
Is that right?
Real hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of references too.
Okay, so maybe not overt,
Western films.
But I don't know what he would be for Westworld. But I'll say at least like a trophy or something that'll
you find a metal
Westworld.
Man just covered in the desert or something.
That's like the Bigfoot of this game is just having a robot.
The point about gameplay though, like here's the thing with what Rockstar's done like the entire time I feel like they've been making trailers in the last decade is like when you see somebody do something in a trailer, it's intentional.
Yeah.
They're not just showing like, Arthur trying to wrangle a wild horse. Like that's a gameplay element that's going to be in the game. They're not just showing you stop a train or like try to get a train to stop. That's a gameplay element
tackling
that's going to be
person.
in the game. Yeah, like all those things are things like they showed the bow and arrow in the last trailer. Like everybody wanted a bow and arrow in the last game. They have one now.
Yeah.
Like everything they're doing with these scenes is intentional. That's giving a cue of what the gameplay is going to be.
Yeah, I agree with Leo because I have never played a Rockstar game. I've played Rockstar games where I didn't necessarily love the game, but I have never played a Rockstar game that did not have interesting gameplay. Like even Manhunt, which people have kind of so-so opinions on. Like, I think the stealth gameplay in there is like fantastic.
I like Smuggler's Run.
Yeah. Oh, all right. And like the Warriors of all things, like that's fun.
Yeah.
So, it's not a thing. It's just a thing. They're one of the few developers that I have faith in that whatever I sit down and play, like even GTA 5, which again, that I don't love as much as everyone else, like the act of playing it is fun.
Yeah.
So it's not a thing I'm worried about.
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
When does it come out again?
October 26th.
Yeah.
Man, the technology though looks remarkable.
That fire, that crackling.
The particle effects, the skyboxes, which they've nailed in the last couple games, looked phenomenal. The horse animations were amazing.
Kicking up dirt. Kicking up so much dirt.
What more do you want? They got balls now and they kick up dirt. There's good horses in games. Hell.
That should be a back of the box quote.
It's going to be crazy. I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about it. I feel like I'm ready for that deep dive.
Yeah.
The old videos that they released where it really got juicy was like, hey, here's 10 minutes. We're going to walk through all these different systems. I'm ready for that. I don't know if it's coming at E3 or after that, but
they're not going to do E3. When's the last time they did E3?
Oh, but imagine Sony trying to make the pitch for them to come on their stage, though. I'm sure it's just dump trucks of money at this point. Like, please.
Rockstar doesn't need to be lost in that noise, though. They can rise above on doing their own thing.
You're totally right. Weird deal. JB, before you left, City of Brass.
Yeah, this is a funky little game from former BioShock and BioShock 2 developers.
Everyone's a former BioShock.
Yeah,
developer.
that's what it feels
I'm
like.
a former BioShock developer.
But if you like Spelunky, it's basically like the framework of Spelunky where you're entering sort of, instead of like Indiana Jones underground environment, it's basically Arabian Nights. What's the
1001 something?
Yeah, it's that kind of setting, or that kind of setting where you're just running through this beautiful city and you're fighting like monsters and stuff in first person with a whip and a sword.
Jumping in first person seems rough.
It actually does it pretty well.
Okay.
It does it pretty well, and you're sliding and doing all these acrobatics, but the whole idea is you're trying to get to the center of the city with as much gold as possible, and there are genies everywhere where you can buy items and stuff to help you out in your journey. But it's a pretty fun game because the combat itself isn't great, but the whole thing of like having all these traps littered through all the levels that you can like try and trick enemies into falling to, or like using your whip, because the whip has several functions. So like you can wrap your whip around an enemy's head and tug them into a trap. And it's just,
slowly.
it's not slowly. It's like a yank. It's,
good.
Yeah, it's real fun. But it's a fun little roguelite. I've put like 5 or 6 hours into it. We're in the middle of reviewing it, so no score yet. But I'm enjoying it. If you like Spelunky or The Binding of Isaac and you want that sort of experience, but in first person with pretty good looking visuals and an interesting setting, that's City of Brass is a good game to check out.
There we go. City of Brass review on the site. Also, you guys have a deep dive analysis on that Red Dead Redemption trailer if you want to dive in deeper than this conversation did. So check that out on GameInformer.com. As for now, you guys want to clap out of here?
Yep.
Bye.
Oh.
Elise Favis, welcome to the show.
Hey.
And Leo Vader on the big boy table out of the control room. How does it
It's so much smaller in real life.
You got notes too. I love that. You came prepared. My God. We're talking Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
You went up to your beautiful Montreal, as your people say.
Montreal.
Ah, beautiful. To go play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah.
How much time did you get to spend with the game?
45 minutes. So a good chunk.
Okay, then they grabbed your hands and wrestled it away
Yes,
from the
then
controller.
they took it away from me.
Okay, so this is Eidos Montreal's first Tomb Raider,
Yeah,
and they help support previous games.
They
I know.
have. Yeah, they've always kind of collaborated a little bit with Crystal Dynamics, but this is the first time that they're heading the development of a Tomb Raider game.
Which, if you're a Tomb Raider fan, I played those 2 games. I enjoyed them. Leo,
too.
I think you're in the same boat.
Loved them.
Are you worried about a new developer, Leo?
I haven't seen enough yet to be worried.
Well,
I've been wrong about that so many times now.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that Crystal Dynamics is still, kind of supporting them and collaborating them with them
Oh, really?
a little bit, but Eidos is the main development team this time.
Okay, so
It's not like Crystal Dynamics is totally out of the picture.
interesting. I'd imagine those Crystal Dynamics fans, there's got to be a strong community for that studio. It's been around for so long. I'd imagine there's outrage. I haven't really seen it about the transition so far yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference because I think Eidos and Crystal Dynamics have always kind of collaborated on Tomb Raider
Yeah,
for years now.
sister studios and all that. And so this is the studio, maybe not the team necessarily, that made like the most recent Thief, that made the Deus Ex games. Do you know like who this team is? Because they're also working on another Marvel project, right?
So Crystal Dynamics is working on the Avengers
I think
game.
Eidos is also. I think there was something about that. But anyways, is it a clear sense of with this new Tomb Raider that it's like, hey, this is the Deus Ex team? Is it as distinct as that?
I mean,
Did you have cool sunglasses on?
I don't know if it's the exact same team. I assume
Yeah.
it is, because I know that one of the reasons they wanted Eidos to to kind of head this new game was because they wanted to bring some of those elements that Deus Ex has, like those kind of social hubs and that kind of more story-driven stuff, where you know, like there. Do you know what I mean? Like those kind of exploration hubs that
I
you
do,
see in Deus
yeah.
Ex?
Where it's like there's plenty of hubs in
And-
Rise of the Tomb Raider, but it wasn't filled with people that you would interact
That's
with.
exactly
necessarily.
it. They kind of want to have like Laura in these situations where she's interacting with the world more. So I think that was the reason for the shift as well.
Huh. What is the world? What is the setting this time?
That's the question, isn't it?
That is a big question. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider takes place first in Mexico and then to Peru.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's all about Mayan culture. So
Beat God of War to it. Yeah.
So Laura basically steals this dagger from a temple, and it creates an apocalypse. So it starts off with an apocalypse, and so it's all about her fighting against like the end of the world.
And so it's called Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and like in the marketing, it's big on like the eclipse imagery and stuff. Is it as simple as kind of like a comet in the sky, like Final Fantasy 7? Like she'll be looking up and there's a slow eclipse going over the sun or anything like that?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, what stood out from actually playing the game then?
It's really similar to Rise in terms of the controls and just how it plays. It's maybe a little too similar. I didn't find there were any major changes.
It's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I didn't expect so much shade. No.
It's supposed to be the most dark title. That's kind of what they keep pushing for, is that we see Lara make more mistakes this time and face the consequences of those mistakes. She deals with a lot of guilt for starting, this apocalypse. And so there's a lot more character development, which I'm excited for.
Yeah.
And the way it plays, I mean, Trinity is still around. There's basically the same villains as, the past prior games.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I think what were some major changes I saw?
It has more of a stealth focus, right?
It does have more of a stealth focus. They were
Really?
saying that they built every environment with stealth in mind. You can camouflage yourself with mud.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah, so like all the environments are big on like verdant and like jungle locations. So
Leo, how do you feel about South America and Mexico and kind of just that jungle environment? Not as actual real places on the globe, but in terms of exploration. Because there's a part of me, and I don't want to be the cynic this episode, but part of me that watched that trailer and it's like, that seems like Tomb Raider 101. It seems a little bit like, the first game or the first rebooted game, it was also kind of jungle-ish, but a more interesting environment. And seeing that, it's like, this looks like Uncharted 1 type stuff again.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think what they're trying to do here is they're trying to make her seem more like primal or like feral, I guess. I think that's what they were telling me.
She loves mud now.
She is she is turning into what they say, like she's turning into the Tomb Raider. So this is her origin story, right? And this is the final chapter of her origins. That's what they call it.
They say final chapter, really?
Mm-hmm.
The end of the beginning, right?
The end of the beginning.
Right.
Well, where can she go? Like they've been building that for so long. Like this is how she becomes the Tomb Raider, and it's like one more game of it. Just one
World Raider.
Right. So the first game is, she's an inexperienced student, and then the second game, you see her with more confidence, and now it's like, well, what is she going to do with all these skills and these things that she mastered? So that's really what it's about.
Okay. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. She does have a rope now, which she can use kind of like Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4.
Did you get to use that in your time with it?
I did. I liked that.
Wait a minute. There wasn't a grappling thing in Rise of the Tomb Raider?
There was a rope that you could use to grapple things. But this time it's more like part of the climbing mechanics. So you can swing to gain momentum. You can rappel down, stuff like that.
The dark approach is interesting too. The idea of like, oh no, we're bringing her darker than she's ever been. We're going to DCify her. You're not going to believe how dark and twisted this gets.
The gritty reboot.
I feel like we have a lot of that, and that kind of, I don't know if that makes me all that interested, but
you have to have an angle, if they're going for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, sure, it's a direction.
I do like the idea that she's going to be facing her own consequences of like her actions, and that she'll have more guilt and stuff. And I really just want to learn more about Lara and see her as a human more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And forget like going to the therapist's office, like that first trailer for Rise of the Tomb Raider. Right. The way you learn about a character is have them cause the apocalypse and then how
work backwards from there.
One interesting thing they said to me was there will not be any co-op this time around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No multiplayer
so no online
whatsoever?
co-op. They did not say that. Just no co-op. Because I think it did not go very well in Rise. There were a fair amount of complaints around it.
I never even tried it, I don't think.
I had fun with it.
There's
obviously there's been no hits at like that survival mode coming back, right? I like that survival mode a lot.
Which one was that? How'd that work?
It was like you had to deal with cold and eating.
That was cool, yeah.
And it was fun. Yeah, it was all like randomly generated.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Neat.
Sweet. I'd imagine they would get out of the gate with that. It seems a smart way. They can't like roll that in slowly over time again.
They said they're ditching co-op this time around.
Okay, interesting. So you're feeling optimistic about it, or how are you feeling overall?
I think I like Tomb Raider, and I'm excited for it.
That's high pitch, Philly. Very
I'll tell you what I think. I'm worried a little bit that it's not differentiating itself enough from the two prior games.
Yeah.
It really just feels like an extension of Rise from what I played, and I look at things like God of War, I look at things like Uncharted 4, and I feel like in the recent couple years, the bar for cinematic storytelling and cinematic games and action adventure games has risen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're in the same place that we were when Rise of the Tomb Raider came out, and I'm curious to see how that'll play out.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I know the series has been around forever, but it just got rebooted not too long ago. And I feel like, maybe from that team's perspective, it's like, hey, look, these two games came out. They're 90 plus, probably around there on Metacritic. Hovering around
they're
90.
high. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
very
beloved.
High.
Fans love them.
Yes.
It's like, how much do we really need to change things, I guess, is their
No,
angle,
and
right?
I'm not sitting here saying I don't think it's going to be a good game.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
That's the thing. I just, I think the bar has also risen in the last couple of years.
Well, thank God this is the end of the beginning. And then that bar can set a new beginning whatsoever.
Yeah.
Elise, thank you so much. Do you want to come back for emails later on in the show?
Yeah, right on.
Okay, you want to clap out of here, though? Bye.
Ah! Yeah.
Brian Shea, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey,
We're talking State of Decay 2.
we are
My God, everyone's traveling all over the world. You went to where for
all
this?
over the world. Glorious San Francisco.
That's exotic.
Scenic.
That's nice. Kyle Hilliard, who's switching in the booth, correct me if I'm wrong, you recently went on a trip that is loosely... Oh, I guess I can't talk
I
about
didn't
it.
tell him how to turn the control mic on.
Oh, okay. He'll talk about it a year from now. Anyways, Brian Shea,
Yes.
State of Decay 2.
State of Decay dose.
I love that first game, specifically the survival DLC mode. They patched in later. Leo also likes State of Decay, yes?
Yes, very much. I wasn't familiar with that survival mode. What's
Yeah,
that
where it
like?
just strips out the story completely.
That's cool.
Oh, it's the way to play. And so State of Decay 2...
Yeah, I think State of Decay 1 was like the definition of great ideas and execution.
You got to love that jank.
Execution.
Execution. But yeah, State of Decay 2 refines a lot of the stuff that State of Decay 1 did, and like they also seem to strip out a lot of that story crap that you don't like.
The story was fine. It's just not what kept me playing State of Decay.
I think they recognize that. Like, I think
good.
that a lot of the stuff in State of Decay 2 is just like, hey, you are trying to survive. Like, I asked, like, hey, is there an overarching narrative? They're like, yeah, kinda. Like,
Kinda, really?
they were like, it's not like you're going up against like some like big governmental organization. It's not like there's like some umbrella corporation out there that it's like you're trying to stop them from creating these zombies. It's like your whole goal is to make your community prosperous.
And so the first State of Decay, if you didn't play it, here's the hooks. Open world zombie game, but it is an action game that leans heavily on the sim aspect, right? So you're like building up this community, also permadeath with the members of that community. So when they're
Which I
down,
love.
they're gone forever. It's amazing. It leads to so many incredible moments, but it was rough around the edges for sure.
It's like all these amazing moments that come from like that are unique to your playthrough, but they feel like canonical, you know? Like it's like the world is out to get you, and based on like how well you play, like the characters will go away. Like, oh, that guy was great at like working in my garden that I built. Now I don't have a gardener. Great. What am I going to do? Because he was killed by this juggernaut zombie.
But not only was he killed by that juggernaut zombie, the part I love is he was killed by that juggernaut zombie because I got greedy and I drove my car into an alley, which I knew was going to be tough to pull out of.
Oh,
and then I tried raiding this house, and of course I went one room too far, and then the juggernaut was hiding.
I had one character die. So I played for 6 hours at this event, and I had one character die, and it's because I got greedy. I was driving back. I was in an ambulance. So I found an ambulance out in this town that I was raiding, and I filled it up with all these like rucksacks of that's what they call them. That's what they call them.
No, I'm laughing at the idea of a zombie riding in the back of an ambulance.
No,
on the
I didn't
stretcher.
fill with zombies.
Oh, okay.
I filled it with like the supply bag. So I was like, all right, we're going to be living in luxury after I come back from this trip. And of course, I stayed out a little bit too late because I was loading up the ambulance's big trunk with all the stuff. And so it was nighttime and all the zombies were out and in the streets. And I was like, all right, well, I have an ambulance. I can just drive through all this horde of zombies. And unfortunately, there was
turning the sirens on. Come at me, bro.
there was a juggernaut zombie, which is like this huge, like, I think he looks like he's like 7 feet tall and like really like he's built, we'll say.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I have an ambulance. I'm just going to run him over. And unfortunately, that did not work. And he stopped me dead in my tracks. And my ambulance caught on fire. And I tried to back up, and I was like wedged between like the juggernaut zombie and like another truck that was like parked.
Yeah.
And I got out and tried to run, and that didn't work out too well. And my person was ripped in two.
Oh my goodness.
And I lost all of my stuff because of it.
Ah.
And
Can the Juggernaut throw cars? Can it throw your car?
It can throw you. I don't think it threw my car. It did make my ambulance blow up like a jerk.
That's pretty good. So we posted a new gameplay today video in 4K at that if you're interested in checking that out.
Yeah.
How many frames each second?
I think, 60?
2, 3.
But reading the comments, there's a weird rivalry, which I didn't expect, between like Days Gone from Sony and State of Decay 2, which is interesting to see. But another big comment was like, the running in this game looks so janky still. Like a lot of it still has a little bit of jank around the edge.
It's called charm.
Charm, I think so. Like I feel like that's part of the State of Decay experience, and I know it's insane to expect glitches and bugs, but that's my default State of Decay. But you still feel like it's a little janky around the edges because it's a $30 price point, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, I was
that's
surprised
that's
when
something
they
to
did that.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some jank, as you put it, when I was playing. And I mean, keep in mind, it was like a build that's like 2 months pre-launch. Like it comes out later this month, but when I asked them, like, hey, how far along is this build? They're like, it's a few weeks old at this point.
You've started every question for them with "Hey," by the way, in your role playing. Which
Hey.
is very
I did.
Funny.
It's me, Brian, again.
Hey, how many frames was it a second?
Hi, this is Brian. I was wondering how many frames. But they like there were some things like I would be defending my base against the zombie invasion. Like it tells you like horde incoming, prepare your defenses, all hands on deck, and you're like, oh crap, like we got to get all of our ducks in a row in order to stop these zombies from entering our community and killing people.
Or
And
just sleeping in your beds, which is gross.
yeah, that would be bad too. But like I had this one thing where I was actually I was going to like set up this whole thing where I was going to battle. Like I had like this choke point where the zombies were going to come in, and they just disappeared in front of my eyes. They dematerialized right before my eyes.
Okay, big thing with this game. Seems like number one bullet point that they all want to talk about is Leo.
Cooperative multiplayer.
There we go. How does this work in this game?
So I played some cooperative multiplayer, and basically the way it works is like, so everybody has their own community in their game. You are acting almost as an ambassador from your community to the host player's community. So one player has to host the game in their world, right? Because like all these communities exist in kind of separate instances of this world. So somebody has to play as the host, and then somebody else, like if you want to join my game, I would be the host, and you would bring one of your community members over, and you would help me with my missions. And you can swap out for different community members. So like if you're like, oh, we're going on this place that has a lot of zombies, and you want somebody who's good with their gun, like you can bring your marksman community member over. And then if we're going somewhere where we have to be a little stealthier, you can bring like a stealthier community member over. Like once
from player 2's game, they
Yes.
can't take players from the first player.
Correct.
And
But when you bring back stuff from that mission to the community, you're contributing to the host player's base and like their resources, their resource stash.
Yeah.
But you also get to take back stuff to your instance of the game. So you get rewarded for playing in this person's world, but also you get rewards, and then you also get to take back some of the resources that you gathered while you were in their world.
Just some? It's not like 1-to-1. It's more like you're rewarded for...
I'm not entirely sure. I had to clarify. Like I played co-op, but we didn't really see how it affected theirs because it was kind of like this weird instanced build that we had going on. It wasn't it wasn't a launch version of the game, is what I'm saying.
Well, and I think they also have that option, which is very Monster Hunter, which is cool, of just like shooting a flare up if you need some help and have people come and help you out. And so I was watching one of IGN's videos, and they were saying that in that video, at least, they're like, oh no, like we expect a lot of players just to be out there wanting to help random people and take those flare signals in a Monster Hunter style way, which is interesting, but that would imply that I would hope that the designers realize like there needs to be real benefits to actually doing that instead of just being a good Samaritan.
Yeah, so I mean, they did tell me that there were a lot of like benefits for joining somebody else's game, and I guess there were multiplayer rewards that you get for doing it, and they didn't really elaborate on that.
So there's benefits with friends.
Yes.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. You looking forward to this thing, Leo?
Absolutely.
And it comes out May 22nd?
Correct. Or 18th if you want to pay $50.
I don't think I do. $30 seems like a real good price for this thing.
I think that I am going to put a lot of time in this game.
Yeah.
Like I was itching to play more even after like sitting down for 6 hours straight. Like I really wanted to play more, and I wanted to like be able to keep playing on my save. Because I was like getting invested in the community members, and like there was one that I was like she had the worst luck. Like if you watch the new gameplay today, it was the one that we recruited from that like under construction house that like
the band member that wrote the greatest song in the world.
So I tried to do a plague heart mission. So plague hearts are like this new thing in State of Decay 2 where they're basically a nest for zombies, and like this plague heart powers up these zombies because it's like pumping some sort of fume around.
Plague heart. Okay, they just say plague heart. Okay,
plague
heart.
Plague heart.
Got it.
So all these zombies have blood plague, which makes them like super aggressive, and I guess they're stronger and faster as well.
Guys.
So to make the area safer, you go around and destroy these plague hearts, and but like it's in the middle of a nest, and there's super powered zombies, so it's a more difficult mission, but it's something that really like it can improve morale of your community, which is a big part of keeping everybody like going in your team. So I took this character, her name was Kit, to the plague heart, and it could not have gone worse. So I got out. I for some reason
turned the console off.
I turned the console off, and she disappeared forever. I got out of the car and I realized I forgot to bring a follower, first of all, which was not a good idea. But second of all, I went in just guns a-blazing, which was a very bad idea because they immediately all knew exactly where I was.
You're supposed to stealth some zombies for a
I
while?
think to pick off a few of them to even out the odds a little bit.
Cover yourself in mud.
And boy, did things go downhill fast. They all charged me and like the gun jammed because she wasn't good with firearms, and she was like, shoot, shoot. Like you could hear her yell like, shoot, damn it, shoot. And like I'm like it's not working. And so I just make a break for it back to my car. And now zombies can jump on your car.
Ooh, good.
And so like I'm driving away. There are 9 zombies lining the outside of my car, punching the window, breaking the glass. And like I'm trying to drive up against like trucks that are careened off the side of the road to scrape them off. And I scrape off one side. And like I make it back to the base, and she gets blood plague. And like so basically you have to treat somebody with blood plague in your community, or else like I'm assuming they turn into a zombie if you don't treat them. But like I never got to that point. But they were getting really sick, and like you couldn't use them. Like they had to be like bedridden pretty much. And
I can't wait for this game to kick all of our asses. That's the thrill.
A lot of
when I
people
heard
are
that, when I heard the gun jammed,
You're
beat
into
still my
that?
heart. Yeah,
Really?
I mean, you
Absolutely.
can unlock perks, like because the way you level up these characters is by using their different skill sets. So like if you want somebody to become a better like gun handler, you have them shoot more, and like they become more familiar with firearms, and that levels up their
I
stat.
think they have someone just walking around a home base just firing a gun into the air at all times. Target practice wherever they
working out my
Or
trigger
like, yeah.
finger.
To call back to new gameplay today, if I wanted to become faster, I would, or like get better stamina, I would just have my guy sprint everywhere.
Yeah, that
which
was
I did a lot of
60%
that.
of the video. But
But yeah, so
Can I ask if there have been any changes to the melee combat? I feel like that's the main thing about the first one that ended up pushing me away from it.
I
was
feel
the
like it
repetitiveness
felt
of
a
the melee.
lot more intuitive and a lot more like it felt smoother. I think that it was still kind of just like press. I think it was square or not square. Jeez, I was playing God of War last night. You can tell. Press X X to melee.
It better be X.
I'm pretty sure it's X.
But it was super repetitive in the first one. You see those same motions again and again. And
I mean,
again and
there
again.
was still that where it's like it is the same motion, but you know, how many motions do you want, Leo?
I would like 4.
4? Well, I'm sure there are 4 motions.
I'm sold.
All right.
Love it.
Another thing about co-op that we didn't touch on is you can actually branch out a little bit. There is some tethering, they said, but I didn't encounter any problems with like going in different directions for a little bit.
Oh, cool.
So you can go complete different objectives if you want, but it does make sense to stick together because like if you're going and looking for food in an area, like say and if you went to this area and there were 3 boxes to like loot through.
Yeah.
If you played the first one, I mean, there's a lot of looting in this game. There will be 6 boxes in that room if you have like 2 people.
Oh, cool.
But only 3 of them can be accessed by you. The other 3 have to be accessed by the other player. So it encourages you to stick together.
That's really weird.
It is kind of
Okay.
weird, but I kind of like it because like it makes you want to go around with your teammate.
Instead of just ditching them. It would be fun to shoot up that flare, though. Wait, you said there was no friendly fire, right?
There was no friendly fire. I don't know
Damn
if it's
it.
an option. I mean, that might have just been for the demo build that I played, but
Yeah.
I could see that being added in very easily.
That seems
the
like something
fact.
that State of Decay audience would be into.
Yeah,
Like,
I
there's like a
definitely would be.
hardcore mode for that.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's
'cause
the idea of shooting up that flare and then just trapping all the people in some effed up situation. Yeah.
I love that.
especially with like how permadeath could really screw people over.
Are they permadeath back in their game as well?
I don't know that. I would imagine, but it seems like it would be too easy to like cheat that system where you're like,
Yeah.
oh nope, never happened, turn
Right,
off.
right. Well, do you want to do the equivalent of Game Informer's permadeath and clap out of here?
Yeah.
Bye. Kyle Hilliard, welcome to the show. Hello. You've been playing Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze on the Nintendo Switch.
Congratulations.
Featuring Funky Kong, I think is the full title.
Yeah, and he's like on the cover now too, right?
He's in a little corner there.
Please don't forget about me. Please pay $60 to buy this game again.
I'm fun, I promise.
Yeah. So there's controversy surrounding this game.
Yeah, it's a lot of
the third
a lot
level
of racial.
is just off the rails. No, but people are a little bit pissy about it, and I think rightfully so, because Nintendo's releasing this at $60.
I'm agreeing with you.
At the same time, they pulled down the eShop Wii U version of Tropical Freeze,
Yeah,
which is wild.
It's weird, and it's like almost. it's almost I don't know, we don't know the full story of why that happened, but it's almost it's
I can
totally
imagine.
it might be a mistake. Like they
No,
they in the past they pulled down
their pants in school.
They pulled down their pants in school and they said this is a mistake. Never been. No, what was that launch game? Nintendo Land.
Yeah.
Nintendo Land got pulled off the eShop for a while for some reason.
Really?
And then they were like, "Oh, sorry, that was a mistake."
This
But-
ain't no mistake.
No, but it's like it's this creating this weird controversy because it's not like they're not pulling sales away from the Switch version of Donkey Kong Country by having it available on the Wii U.
I've
eShop.
been meaning to buy that on Wii U. That
Yeah.
reminds me.
Well, I think maybe there are those people out there. I don't know if it's a big percentage, but I bet there are the consumers out there that like Tropical Freeze back in the news. They say, "Oh, I really wanted to play that game. I still own a Wii U." Wait, that is
on.
$40 cheaper? Like, why the hell wouldn't I just pay for that one?
Maybe
I don't care
guess
about Funky Kong.
that's got to be a small percentage though, right? I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, what's it like to go back to this game?
So yeah. So by the way, like that's totally, absolutely like a reasonable controversy. I think that the game is $60 when it's
Yeah.
like 4 years old. But with that being said, like the game is very good. Like the Switch version of the game is a great port, and Funky Kong is he's fun to play as. He makes the game really easy.
Too easy?
Why are you giving me this look, Hanson?
Because you're talking and I want to pay attention to the guests on the podcast.
Are you guys like sharing signals to each other?
Constantly.
Okay.
Now!
Just trouble water outside Kyle.
But Funky Kong makes the game really easy. As a double jump, he doesn't get injured by spikes. He has extra hearts. So for me, as someone, why?
The idea of
Why are
of
you
Funky
undercutting
Kong,
me so
I know,
much?
but the idea of Funky Kong in his anatomy having extra hearts is a very funny idea.
Yeah, it keeps him in his biceps.
Boink, boink.
That's right. But for me, as someone who played it and really loved it when it was on Wii U, to revisit it now and play as Funky Kong was cool because I just ripped through the whole game. Like,
Yeah.
I think I only lost like a handful of lives the whole time. Where when I played on the Wii U, it was super difficult, and the last boss took me like dozens of tries. Where here I beat the boss in like two attempts.
Fastest $60 you ever spent.
Well, it's nice for me to revisit it. It's nice to have that version of the game because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I get to see the whole thing again. I get to remember all these levels, and I get to do it with less of the frustration.
Right.
And but I mean, if you want to play the original version of the game, that's totally there. Like if you're just coming to this brand new, I would almost recommend just playing it with the original cast, so to speak, to get the full experience.
Which included
Cranky,
Cranky Kong,
Donkey,
Diddy,
Dixie.
Dopey.
That's not a Kong, dude.
Baby?
I
Is
tell
there
you that
any-
every day.
I'm not having this fight again. Is there any incentive to not play with the easy mode character Funky Kong? Do you get rewards for playing it with the harder
Oh.
characters at this point?
I don't think so. I think just personal growth. You know.
It's worth mentioning too. That game is hard.
Yeah.
Like I stopped playing that game, and I'm an idiot baby when it comes to games. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that was one in particular where it's like I love this game. I like the music. I like everything about it. But it's just too hard. I
Yeah.
can't finish this because that first Donkey Kong Country, that last boss took me like an hour and a half, and the deal of like
King K. Rool.
and this game's even harder than that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like the returns was tougher.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, for someone like you, I would recommend it because Funky Kong's super fun to play as, and he makes the game a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Check it out. There we
He
go.
has a surfboard, but he can't surf.
Yeah, we did discover that on New Gameplay today.
What do you mean? He
What-
just
what-
walks around with a surfboard?
Well, he kind of spins the surfboard under his feet to like float slowly as he's dropping, and
spins like a helicopter blade.
kind
on his
of
feet?
like what is that trick on skateboarding?
Is it not a spin?
Yeah, is that it? Where you kind of like rotate the skateboard 180 degrees under your feet?
A pop shove it?
Pop shove it. He's basically pop shoveting to make a little helicopter blade. With
Like
his feet.
that's why skateboarders do it as well, so they can glide a further distance.
And when they fall in the water, does their skateboard disappear as well?
Yeah, they suddenly are submerged.
Okay, that's right. So, but yeah, it's a great game. It's still
Yeah.
a great game.
Yeah.
It's probably cost too much, and Funky Kong is fun to play.
What more do you need to say?
Great soundtrack.
Correct. More importantly, though, you and no one has touched VR in the Game Informer office for what feels like 30 years.
No.
But today, you tore the cobwebs off the Oculus Go, which just came out of the Oculus Pro, whichever
Yeah.
one we have now. I think both are out at this point.
Yeah.
And you said, what is this mystical thing? Let me try one more game. I'm giving you one
Is
more
this-
shot, VR.
Is this that thing they were playing with in Ready Player One? This looks neat.
Steven Spielberg's VR? And you played a game called Beat Saber.
Yeah, Beat Saber.
And then you ran back to our desk and you said, you guys, there's a good VR game again. There's a good VR game again.
just ringing a bell.
Right, right.
And then you realize
There's
you were
something
still in
fun.
VR and you're in a fake version of The Office.
But in that version, Andy still made fun of you and told you to shut up.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got to go for realism.
Okay,
you know?
Beat Saber is in early access.
It came out in early access on Monday. Yeah.
Okay, here's my pitch. You tell me where I'm wrong.
Hold on, this is an important detail. It was Tuesday.
Okay, tell me where I go wrong.
Yeah.
It's basically Taiko Drum Master, but with a red and a blue lightsaber.
Yeah. Yes. No.
There's some unique elements, I think.
I don't know if Taiko is the right line to draw.
It's a rhythm game, rhythm game that you play with two essentially lightsabers. Which at first it's like, this is just a gimmicky thing, maybe to try and appeal to Star Wars fans. But when you're holding those sabers, ain't no gimmick, boy. That's fun. That's some fun
Ain't
stuff.
no gimmick, baby.
What did you think of this game, Kyle?
Oh, I really liked it. So I saw trailers for it, which were intriguing. And it was early access, and it was weird for me to kind of just go, I want to try this game, and to like dust off the
this
Oculus.
weird feeling that I want to try a
I'm
VR
I'm a
game.
game journalist. I should try these things out and offer some
Strange
opinion on
feeling
them.
of hope.
But yeah, so the way the game works is like it's a rhythm game, and you're kind of standing in place. You have two lightsabers, and blocks come at you, and they have arrows on them, and the arrows dictate which way you should swipe your lightsaber through the block.
And if you need to hit it with a good guy lightsaber or a bad guy lightsaber.
That's right. Luke's or Darth Vader's lightsaber, and it's all set to
But
music.
not Luke's green one.
Yes, thank God.
This
that
is
you
Empire
clarified
Luke. I need to make it clear.
that. And then the blocks come at you, and you swipe them, and sometimes you have to dodge big blocks.
You have to like move your head to different locations, so it kind of forces you to dance.
Yeah, a little bit. And I don't know why. I just found it immediately engaging. I ended up playing every song that was available because just that action, it kind of reminded me of just playing like traditional drums, like hitting cymbals and stuff like that. And I really loved it. I had a great time with it.
Yeah,
like
and
conducting.
I made you yes, conducting. There you go. So it's more like that Wii game where you Mad Maestro.
Mad
Is that
Maestro.
what it's called? I don't know. But I made you two guys play it, and I'm curious to hear if you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Kyle, I went in there and I said, all right, I'll play one song. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
That is the most fun I've had with a VR game in a very, very long time. And I love music rhythm games.
Yeah.
And it's also just that great thing of with VR headset having like your headphones right there blaring, but going through those motions, that was fun as hell. That was great.
I'm happy to hear that because I almost felt like I was like, am I crazy? Like this is super fun.
Yeah, Leo, what'd you think?
Leo,
I thought it was great.
You hate all things I love. Oh, okay, you already spoiled that. But yeah, you guys had a good time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised that I died from a block I'm supposed to like dodge just going right through my head. Suddenly the song was over.
I did have to lower the sort of horizontal axis a little bit so that I didn't have to duck as far to dodge. But yeah, it's just it's very clear what you have to do. And even when it gets complicated, it's still really easy to just kind of quickly swipe through those blocks and differentiate between the just two colors. And I played every song, and I really want to play more and try the harder difficulties. It's currently in early access.
Do they have the harder difficulties? Because I love that song, but it's like, I think I'm hitting like north of 90% of these notes.
There was easy, normal, hard, and I think there might even be an expert for each song. And I did every one on normal, which was good. And then I tried one on hard, and I didn't quite make it to the end, which is exciting.
I'm very excited to play more of this, which it's been a while since I've said that about a VR game. But
yeah, it's Vive, Oculus, and then I hope it. I would like to see it come to like PlayStation VR. I think it would be cool.
Yeah,
it would fit,
for sure. Beat Saber's the name of that game.
Yeah.
Leo, real quick, you insisted on talking about Fortnite Season 4.
I am dying to talk about this.
No, there's a big Fortnite update. The comet finally hit.
Yeah.
And it took out Jeremy Clarkson. No, I don't know. What did it do?
Who's Jeremy Clarkson?
Is he the Top Gear guy?
I guess. What did that comet finally do when it hit?
There's craters now. There's some cool new stuff. There's hop rocks in the craters, which give you like levitation for a limited amount of time, which I wonder if that's somewhat of a response to Radical Heights. I mean, they did it's most likely not, but it really is like playing Radical Heights. It's like playing with the vertical gameplay is such an interesting thing in a battle royale context that hasn't really happened so much yet.
Yeah.
Like it made me think that, hey, a Crackdown battle royale might actually be really fun and unique. But
Is it too late, Crackdown 3? Please tell us. So you're just like, you're in the air for longer, just firing. Yada, yada. Cool.
Levitating. There's also a bunch of new secrets. There's like a supervillain layer with nukes.
Weird.
Like carved into the side of a mountain. Just some interesting map changes like that.
Yeah.
And there's like challenges. Get this, challenges.
I'm familiar with the concept.
Where you collect Fortnite letters, like skate letters, and they're just hidden
Are
around
you
the map.
kidding me? I love collecting letters in games. Right? I really do.
Yes.
Do you spell skate?
Yeah, that's the weird part. You spell Fortnite.
Hang on.
Okay.
Let's figure out the best anagram with Fortnite. We've consulted the scientists. Turns out the funniest anagram for the word Fortnite is rotten if.
So you can collect rotten if now. There's also a treasure map, and there's like a challenge for following the treasure map and finding the treasure. They just keep like killing it with how clever and.
So just packing Easter eggs, even more Easter eggs into the Battle Royale mode is one of the most interesting things of Season 4. That's a weird twist.
Yeah, seems like it. They've also got a new Battle Pass, which the thing I like about the Battle Pass is that if you play enough and rank up, you pay $10 or so for the Battle Pass, you can earn enough in-game currency to buy the next season's Battle Pass with if you don't spend it on anything else. So you can just make the investment once, play enough, it's a full-time job.
Sweet. That's crazy. Fortnite, everybody. Check it out.
That game's pretty big.
Please.
Sweet.
Just throw them $1 or two, please.
Give them your little
Someone,
$V.
Please talk about Fortnite.
You guys are ready to move on to emails?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do it. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here. I'm Ben Hansen, still here. Leo Vader's still here as well.
Look at that.
Isn't that magical? Elise Favis.
Hi.
And Kyle Hilliard.
It's weird not to see you with a glass in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you put on
One
glasses?
more blemishes.
You're a real person.
It's easy to forget.
Leo Vader, officially a real boy today. Congratulate him on Twitter. What's your Twitter
Fantastic.
handle, Leo?
At Leo Vader, hashtag the real boy.
All
You
right.
got a hashtag in your name.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Emails. People send it to podcast@gameformer.com. We love them. We read them. We read them off on the show. We answer questions. We accept news, feedback, comments, theories, games, fan fiction, whatever you want to send it to podcast@gameformer.com.
Fashion advice.
Absolutely. Please send it to podcast@gameformer.com, and then we're going to read them off, choose our absolute favorite. That person gets a wonderful prize. Leo, which is
It's brand new.
officially, ladies and gentlemen, we are retiring the quote-unquote real nice prize, which
What?
I feel like is special. It's
Oh.
forever just going away, never to be mentioned
So we'll never
on this podcast.
Even though it was different every week, we won't reveal what it was that people were
Correct.
getting. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So there is a new prize for the Email of the Week. Email of the Week still stands. We'll get to it at the end of the show. Some would say there's been a clue this whole episode, Leo.
It's eagle-eyed viewers may notice.
Eagle-voiced viewers.
Can you make sure the still for the episode has it circled?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay,
red
thank you.
circle, question mark.
Circle. It's so funny. Leo, I'm obsessed with YouTube thumbnails.
Yeah.
Every big
To an
movie
unhealthy
now,
degree,
like,
frankly.
Oh, absolutely. But like Infinity War is a whole new round of that stupid thing where it's like a picture of Thanos on YouTube and there's a red circle around his shoulder. And it's like 6 details Marvel doesn't want you to see. It's like, it's a shoulder. It's an effing shoulder. There's nothing special on that
He
shoulder.
actually has 2 arms.
So frustrating. Anyways, YouTube's fun. Welcome, YouTube viewers. David Smith writes in and says, "What games do you own that the only reason you still play them is for sheer nostalgia? Even though I enjoy a lot of new games, every now and then I still get an urge to play some of the games I grew up playing, even if they are a complete dumpster fire." The sheer nostalgia bad games that you go back to.
Pretty much the entire library of the Nintendo 64, with the exception of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Those.
The only good games for N64? You going to the mat on that? Boy?
No, I don't know about that. But the one that I thought of in particular was Shadow to the Empire.
Oh,
I
great choice.
really adore that game. I have a lot of love for that game. It was like my first 64 game. I think I even played it before Mario 64. But it's not a good game. But I still have a lot of fun going back to it and just purely for the nostalgic reasons. I enjoy
just like
Shadow
the
to the Empire.
sounds and the music in that first level. Hearing
Yeah.
a probe droid will make me happy
Yes.
just because of that game.
Yeah, Probe Droid, exactly. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Like there's a probe droid, I think, in the background of like the latest Han Solo trailer. It's like, why does it make me so happy? It's like, oh, that's right, the first level of Shadows of the Empire. That's such a stupid reason to be intrigued.
Yeah.
Did you have you ever checked out the Steam version of that?
I own it, but
Oh, really?
I haven't actually booted it up.
You can
Yeah.
play it in 1080. It's pretty sweet. I have to be realistic. I mean, Sunset Riders is the only reason I play that multiple times a year. It's
Sure.
just nostalgia. It's stupid. It's a very silly game.
I don't do it very often, but I think the last time I did it was going back to Spy Fox in Dry Cereal. Not a lot to get out of that game as an adult.
What is that
Yeah, what?
game?
A humongous entertainment behind Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish.
Oh, okay.
Those classic titles. Spy
They're-
Fox is my favorite series of theirs, and I played them to death as
They were
a
like
kid.
point and click for a much younger audience.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
point and click like puzzlers with a really over-the-top sense of humor.
Wait, you play that as an adult?
Yeah. Well, I had never finished it. I went back to it twice, though.
Oh.
Is it fun?
No.
but you go back to it anyway.
That's how much I love it. That's how real my love is.
Wow.
It doesn't have to be good.
No kidding. Big heart.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably Grim Fandango. I go back to that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you play the remaster a lot?
I do.
Mm.
Yes. Yes. That's the one thing I will never delete from my PS4.
Yeah. Ooh, good call. Good call. You know, it'd be a fun service. Like, forget Pro Flowers or any of that stuff. Here's my service that I'm pitching.
Sherry's Berries.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Yeah, I hope you're never a sponsor on this podcast because we hate you. No berries allowed ever. No good. But here's the service. You subscribe to it. It's called Nostalgia in a Van. I'll just spitball in here, right? So you pay for this Nostalgia in a Van. I then
I'm on board. How much
secretly
is it?
contact your parents, family members, old neighbors, find some deep ass cut nostalgia from your childhood, crazy nostalgia that you never would remember, and then show up to your house and give it to you.
The actual item from them. You deliver it from
or
their
like
house.
recreate it, because you know there's the obvious things, but every once in a while, if you're looking through like old photos, you forget. They're like, oh yeah, that toy. I forgot I had that. I forgot I played with that every day for 3 years. You know, and I feel like there's that window stuff you forgot about, but people could probably still dig out and surprise you with.
I would love if he just showed up at my house with a stroller one day and I just had to have a stroller in my apartment. Here,
You paid for nostalgia in a van. Take the stroller.
You figure out what to do with this.
Yeah. All right, maybe not. You know what? Some businesses don't get off the ground.
Take it to Shark Tank.
Look,
See what they think.
It's certainly an idea. I think we can all agree. It is
thanks.
a thought that you had.
It's an idea.
Kyle, van enthusiast. Matthew from Modesto, California says, hello, GI crew. I've read the reaction this week regarding the microtransactions in the new Harry Potter mobile game. Players are peeved that they essentially have to spend money if they want to advance
Did you say
right.
peeves?
Yeah,
actually?
that's a good Harry Potter.
Yeah, say
joke.
They're,
Oh, is
they're
it?
peeves.
Yeah.
Players are peeves.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it got me thinking, why isn't this IP a full console RPG yet? The Persona series has already shown you can combine school with RPG battles. My ideal Harry Potter game would have the turn-based tactics of a Square Enix game and the class management of Bully.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it exist? Okay,
I
so
don't know.
did you guys check out that Harry Potter game?
I played it.
What'd you think?
Well, I enjoyed it up until the part where you get like locked in a closet with this like plant that you have to like cut the vines off
The
of you.
mandrake?
What?
It's a mandrake, or
I don't know what it was called.
Okay.
But you get stuck in there because this other student locks you in.
So it's like a Venus flytrap
And-
that only accepts microtransactions, or
Yeah, basically. So you know,
Oh.
I couldn't actually advance until I think like the next. I had to just like stop playing and wait till the next day. And I was like, really, like I want to know what's gonna happen because I was starting to get invested in the story, which like
really
isn't half bad. It's all right. It's
half
not,
blood.
Yeah. half
Because
blood.
you can like date other people in the game, right?
I
that
did
the whole
not
thing?
get to that part.
Oh, okay.
But-
and it's a
um,
prequel, right?
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
they-
It takes
Harry Potter
place
babies.
in oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like the 80s.
Well,
I
Dumbledore,
think.
even weirdly, like when he
Yeah.
brings everybody in, he's like, "By the way, the boy who lived won't be here for a couple of years." It's like I don't know why you had to bring that up for everybody.
And how long is he saying that? Like in the Fantastic Beasts movie, he's like, boy, you'll live won't be here for 120 years.
He's
So
not even
young.
alive at that point, so come on.
Dumbledore?
No, the
I
boy who
know,
lived.
but if
Harry
it's
Potter.
foreshadowing,
Right.
you know, he would know magically, right?
Right.
Basically, the problem with the game is that there's this this stamina that you have, and it slowly goes down, and you can only use it a certain amount of times for free, and then you have to either basically wait like for several hours to use some again, like maybe 3
Ugh.
more. And then, like, it just takes forever for that stamina to go back up unless you use real money.
Stamina
so
like us.
it's too bad.
Ugh.
Is there a like turn off stamina meter, like single fee, like $15 or something like that?
No.
You know?
No,
There
I'd be
never
up-
is.
you
I'd
get,
be
you
There
get
never is. Are you crazy?
So someday.
no, you get gems or coins, and then you can use those.
Ooh.
You
Neat.
gotta pay.
Uh,
them.
so-
Such a great IP for a video game. Honestly,
Yeah.
someday we'll get a
It's-
really good one.
I
it's
was sad about it
Yeah.
because I love Harry Potter, and I've been waiting for like an actually good Harry Potter game forever.
Yeah.
I think the last one I enjoyed was like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on my
Great
PC
game.
in like the 90s. Right?
Love that game.
So good.
Yes.
Wow.
And the Quidditch game was amazing. Did you play that?
I didn't play much of that
Oh,
one.
There was a
bummer.
Wii one, the Azkaban, I think, was they tried to do an open school, and you could kind of explore
Really?
the school a little bit.
Chamber of Secrets
know
had an
if I played
explorable
that.
school too.
Yes,
Okay.
it did.
And
Yeah.
the
fun.
grounds around, it really felt like you were attending Hogwarts. And that's all I wanted. I didn't want no destroying the
Weren't there
Voldemort.
like little platforming sections too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Heavy focus on platforming.
Yeah.
And
Just like in
tracing
books.
spell
Yeah.
icons.
Yeah, it was fun times.
So
I
to
liked
Matthew's
it.
question of why that big game doesn't exist, it's tough because like Warner Brothers owns it,
Yeah.
right? And so
And they don't make video games,
it's
so
very sad. Warner Brothers Montreal is very busy with whatever they've been doing for 600 years up there. But like they need that studio that can make an RPG. And like, what is a Warner Brothers RPG studio? Am I missing something? Write in, please. But it's tough, right? There's not like an obvious contender.
No.
Would you take a Harry Potter fighting game from NetherRealm? Is that acceptable?
Oh God.
You can play as that
fine.
the dastardly plant.
It's got to be an RPG or an MMO RPG, like MMORPG. Wow.
Yeah.
Is what I meant to say.
I'm sure somewhere
Something
in
like
some
that.
deep chamber of secrets in a studio, they have a like 10% finished Harry Potter MMO somewhere.
Is the Venn diagram of like huge Harry Potter fan and video game fan, is that like just us three people? Like,
no!
What are you talking about?
Like,
No
I mean,
way.
Oh, Serial's waving his hands at me too, so I guess he's
He's
I
part of
don't
it.
know if like most people who are big Harry Potter fans, maybe they're not big gamers, but that's
No. You're
yeah.
crazy.
All right.
That audience is so huge.
So they like
Yes.
the value of investing in like a 2 to 3 year development cycle to make like a full Harry Potter RPG, like that would pay off, right?
Oh my
Oh!
God, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be so profitable.
it's just waiting for that like Dragon Ball
I mean, I would
Fighters.
play it absolutely.
Kyle, get out of here.
I want it to exist.
But it's waiting for that Dragon Ball Fighters like finally like
Yes.
giving this the treatment it deserves.
God,
and I feel
that
like
would
within the
just
next
be like
5
the
years that's
happiest
happen.
day of my life. I'm not
Yeah.
even joking. I'd be so happy.
That's some sad life.
I'm just saying.
Well, they had Daniel Radcliffe played the Rockstar CEO in that movie.
yeah.
So he
Oh.
now, by the virtue of actors,
I think it's called The
playing
Boy
real
Who
people,
Sued.
they know that he now knows how to make video games, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Just because like when
Right.
when an actor plays a musician, they learn to play, then they can actually play.
Never forget.
I
it.
read that on IMDb trivia.
So Radcliffe should be working on this, right?
Yeah, he's probably 90% done with
Okay,
it.
cool,
Yeah.
great.
Well, we don't know much about Red Dead Redemption's 2 plot. I'm going to stop talking on this podcast. We have a lot to go through with that God of War Game Club. Caleb from Greenwood, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Hey, Greenwood.
What's up?
He says, in the Saints Row games, there's a nerdy virgin guy named Matt Miller. At Game Informer, you guys have a nerdy guy named Matt Miller. I removed the virgin part, assuming. I don't know. He says, Quinkydink or done on purpose? That is a Quinkydink. I know that because I was on that cover story trip for Saints Row 3.
Yeah.
And when they revealed the character Matt Miller, like we all looked at each other like, oh, like Game Informer's Matt Miller. And I had no idea what we were talking about. So
Was that character in the first 2 Saint Row?
no, I
Okay.
believe he was introduced in 3.
Because I remember playing 3. I had just started at Game Informer, and kind of like when Matt Miller was revealed, it's kind of like just like this is weird, right, guys? But like no one seemed to think it was weird.
We
so.
just didn't really want to talk to you. I'm sorry.
You guys didn't know me yet.
Yeah, we don't know you like we know now.
I
Drew,
would definitely wouldn't talk to you.
Drew in Missouri says, I rarely have dreams where people I do not know in real life make an appearance. However, Game Informer seems to be the exception to that.
Yeah.
I
We get that all the time.
Okay.
I dreamed that I was in Minneapolis visiting relatives and I needed to use the restroom. I walked into a random building, which is apparently the Game Informer office, because while standing at the urinal, Matt Miller walked in. And
Classic Miller.
started verbally harassing me. He kept
Classic Miller.
He kept saying, "Do you know who I am? I'm Matt f***ing Miller."
You call that a stream?
Wow.
As I
This is
began
just-
to wash my hands, he became even more aggressive and wouldn't let me use the soap dispenser. He was very rude, and the dream actually forced me from my sleep because of the intensity and hate that I saw in Miller's eyes. My question is, what does it all mean? And
I have
why
to
is
s-
Dream Matt Miller such a jerk?
I have to say, this is Matt Miller on a news day.
Oh, interesting. That is true. We rotate
No.
news shifts in the office, and Miller is the most peaceful man on earth and the smartest man on earth, but he hates it.
He does hate
so
news.
much.
I was gonna say, if we were to rank the editors in the office of like most to least likely to
I thought you
verbally
were about to
berate
say
someone.
most to least likable.
I mean, that too.
I've been working on that list in my head for a long time. yeah.
but like the most likely and least likely to verbally harass someone at the at a toilet, I think Matt Miller would be at the bottom of that list, right?
Do we not have HR?
Yeah, not so much. I don't think we do actually.
I
I think you'd be number 1, by the way.
To make fun of someone in a toilet? No, I'm weird about bathrooms. I will not interact with anybody in a bathroom, ever.
Okay.
Yeah, don't ever do that. Ethan from Connecticut says, to Ben and the Game Informer crew, while listening to your spoiled segment on The Last Jedi and Avengers, I believe Matt Miller said something to the effect of seeing each a few more times, and that got me wondering, how many times on average will you see a movie in theaters? Do you have a personal record? I, for some reason, saw Tron Legacy 5 times, but I blame the fact that the theater was only a block away from the dorms. 5 times for Tron Legacy. Way too much. I like that movie, but
I saw Black Panther 4 times.
really? That's crazy.
Yeah. I was just, it's funny because I was just talking about this with Burst during lunch. And I was like, yeah, I saw it 4 times. Yeah.
Wow. What is
Yeah.
it like seeing a movie in the theater the 4th time?
As great as the first time.
Really?
Now you
Cool.
start noticing little things more so.
Well, what I mean, did you just love the movie so much?
I
or-
did. I loved it.
Okay.
I super, super loved it. And I just kept having friends that were like, I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, oh my God, I'll take you. You need to experience this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how it happened.
That was me with Kingsman: The Secret Service. I
Oh,
kept
yeah.
having friends who were like curious, but like, I don't know if I'm gonna go. I'm like, I'll take you. We have to go see it. I ended up seeing it 7 times
Are you kidding
in
me?
theaters. Yeah,
It's a lot.
including one
7
time in like a
times?
theater that ran old movies from 6 months ago.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
Wow.
I stand by it.
Jeez, my record was 2 for just a bunch of random movies like Toy Story 3, Last Jedi,
Yeah.
and of course The Truman Show I saw twice.
That's of
As
course.
everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
but a bunch, little things like that.
Yeah, there's like the big ones where, Avatar, I saw once in 3D and 2D, and that was a big trend. It's like Toy Story 3, I had to see it in 3D and 2D, which I guess I'm glad I did, but I think
course.
I think Ghost Protocol I might have seen 3 times in theaters.
Great movie to see in theaters.
Yeah.
I saw that in IMAX. Ooh,
Ooh, baby. That skyscraper scene? Ooh, hot.
I think I went with you to that one, didn't I? Was that the Brad Bird one? Or was
I
that the second
didn't-
one?
that's
Well,
Brad
talk
Bird
to
one.
you. That's
Okay.
the Brad Bird
Yeah,
one.
because I wanted to see the Dark Knight Rises intro.
That's right, where Bane's voice was even harder to understand.
yeah. That's another one I saw
Harder
twice.
to
Dark Knight
translate.
Rises.
Yeah. B. Hardy. Good name. Hey, Hardy. Bane.
Oh, sure.
Keep up. Keep up. This podcast is flying. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Just sitting here watching YouTube, and apparently there's a game called Blasphemous. It's coming out, and it's called one of the top scariest horror games coming this year. Here's the twist. It's a side-scroller. I played and enjoyed plenty of side-scrollers in my day, but of the many emotions I'd associate with side-scrollers, elation, rage, panic, curiosity, a whole lot more rage, nothing has ever approached fear. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fraidy cat when faced with terrifying situations, Dead Space, Fear, AVP 2, Bejeweled, but I just can't imagine a side-scroller scaring me. So can-
Oxenfree was scary at points. That's
yeah,
what
and
comes to mind
was
for
it
me.
like Home? What was that one game called Home or something? I think that was a side scroller.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Penumbra?
don't think I know that one.
Man, okay.
But I like the idea of like horror in which genres horror deflates. Side scroller's a good choice. And I looked up footage of this game. What it is, I looked at it first. I'm like, it's some Castlevania style game. There's nothing spooky about this. But the audio was like weird and creepy and unnerving, and that might be the secret for a good scary side scroller.
Absolutely.
Salt and Sanctuary. is another one.
Atmosphere.
It's
That's
kinda
true.
creepy.
The next day, Mr. Hardy wrote in again. He says, "Hey guys and girls, been thinking about the side scroller thing, and Limbo came to mind.
Oh.
And I realized that.
Yeah.
Now I'm embarrassed. Inside as well.
Inside too.
There we go.
Little Nightmares is kind of almost 2D.
I guess if you're
Kind of
into
falls
it.
into that
Did you know
category.
That the Russo brothers are making a Little Nightmares TV series with the director of Nightmare Before Christmas?
Really?
What the hell are you talking about?
This is-
Really?
Wait,
Yeah.
like Tim Burton?
No, not
No.
well. Tim Burton. He didn't direct. It's
Henry Selick.
Henry
Oh,
Selick
okay.
direct, and he did Coraline as well.
Oh my gosh.
Which I like that,
That
overlap
sounds
of people.
pretty darn good.
The
Yeah.
the Avengers Infinity War
Yeah.
directors.
I'm sorry, I refer to them as the directors of the Community Paintball episodes.
That's right.
That's how they prefer it as well. Their greatest crossover.
They're producing it, and Tom Selleck, not Tom Selleck, Henry Selick. Tom Selleck is involved too. I don't know, but yeah, Henry Selick
He's
is
playing the Little Nightmare.
Hi.
But anyway, so that'll come out someday, and
Wow.
That
We'll watch it,
sounds,
probably.
Weird.
pretty cool.
yeah.
Spencer writes in, and he says, "Have you ever noticed that the word again is used a lot during discussions on the Game Informer show, especially with good old Dan Tack? For example, Dan Tack will say, again, the game had some technical issues. Again, I didn't think it was slow, it just felt slow.
Again,
That
I don't know
that
any
does
bands.
sound like tack.
He does do that a lot, but he's a surprisingly well-spoken man, and I think he's just so key on driving a point home that's why he goes for again.
Strong conclusions.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And he's probably scared of YouTube comments as well, and so he says, again, you can't call me out for this, but I'm going to bash the first half of God of War. Okay. Tom Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota, friend of the show, has an interesting question. He says, hello, Ben and the GI crew. That's you guys. The email segment on the GI show is one of my favorite segments across all
Aw.
podcasts. Can you believe that? And radio shows. What are some of your favorite segments on any show? Is his question. Isn't that good?
Boy.
I used to listen to this podcast called The Best Damn Podcast Ever,
Yeah.
and they did a segment called Battle, where you'd sign up and you'd give your phone number and your name, and they would call you at the start of their recording and give you a challenge. And then they would do their like hour and a half podcast and
Yeah.
call you back at the end of it and check in and see how it went. and it was amazing. I competed twice.
What?
Won my challenges.
What were they?
Yeah.
First one was to make a Taco Bell smoothie. So I went to Taco Bell and I got a bunch of Taco Bell items, took them and put them in the blender, and it was just like this cheesy yellow paste that I drank, and I just took pictures and sent them in, and it was great. It was so
Pictures
much
of you
fun.
vomiting
Did you get
afterwards.
anything? Like, do they money or?
No, I got to put in my signature on the forums.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
a super
That
fun
is pretty
idea,
cool.
though.
I do
I
like
want to
that.
steal that idea because that podcast was pretty small, and now it's not around anymore. So
Up for
a
grabs.
public domain.
There you go.
Yeah, loved it.
All you have to do is call something public domain, and legally, I think that becomes public domain. It's like a curse.
Yeah.
I was really racking my brain over this one. I'm going to go with American Gladiators, The Eliminator. That's the grand finale, right? Where they have like the guy and the gun, and the gladiators shooting you down with the tennis balls, and they have to make it from little thing to little thing to work their way up there and
Sure.
take them
You know,
out.
We should steal that
I
one
had
too.
never watched American Gladiators up until like last year, and do you know who introduced me to it?
JV.
Shay.
Really?
Seems like a Shay.
He's like, you want to know why I was inspired to get these muscles? There's this show. So American Gladiators. Do you guys have like Canadian
Show
triumphs?
segments.
Gladiators.
Yeah, they don't have a Canadian equivalent.
Canadian Bravehearts.
For some reason, I was just thinking of this show. Have you, from when I was a kid, did either any of you watch like it was called? I think Santa Calls. No. Okay.
Calls?
It might. I think that's what it was called. Where you call in and it's like Santa Claus, and you just ask him questions. And
Really?
It
Yeah.
was a show.
Are you real?
Come on, no
it
BS
was
here.
a show. It was
If
like
you're real, you have to tell me.
on YTV or
Really?
something in Canada.
I used to produce a show for a community TV station that was like
hope I'm
that, where we
getting
had
the
like
name
a
right.
Santa call in, and kids would call in, and it was always kind of uncomfortable listening to a kid
yeah.
breathy whisper into a phone what they wanted. And it's weird.
I like Yes, Yes, No on Reply All.
Ah.
It's always very good.
Hmm.
And there's a trend in sitcoms. I don't know if maybe The Office started it, but that's kind of where I remember it starting. Is the cold open?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's just before the credits, just a one-off joke that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the rest of the show. Brooklyn Nine-Nine does it a lot, and The Office and Parks and Rec. Always really enjoy those. I like those
Yeah.
one-off quick jokes.
Good segment. Do you have a one-off quick joke for us right now?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I don't have one. I was giving you a prompt.
I don't have one. You don't have. I don't have a prompt too.
Oh.
Scale of
Oh.
Leo, you're funny. Scale of 1 to 10. As a kid, how much did you appreciate this joke? And I think it went a little something like this. Why is 6 scared? Because 7, 8, 9.
I thought Scared of 7 was part of it.
Yeah, you messed it up.
Excuse me?
Why
is
6
six
Scared,
scared
of
of
7?
7?
Yeah, you messed the thing up.
Oh,
Good job.
that's a little detail. Okay, why is 6?
Why is 6 randomly
Why-
just scared of everything?
I think it still works either way.
No.
Okay,
It
No.
does.
okay, but the 7, 8, 9 joke.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
Magnificent. What a joke.
It's a great joke when you're a kid.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Number
funny.
one.
Yeah.
I liked the Orange You Glad I Didn't Say Banana, that whole routine.
Very good.
Very fond of that.
Very good.
Mm.
I used to punch myself in the groin in like first grade. That was kind of my big joke.
What?
I would punch myself in the groin, pretend to be really hurt when I was 6 years old. That was the joke that I
Are you okay,
maintained.
Leo?
We all knew you were desperate for attention, but good God.
Yeah. What, you think it just started because I got this job? It's a lifestyle.
Oh,
It
boy.
is his legacy.
Well, he's not going to have a legacy. No kids going. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Adam from Utah says,
Because
GI
79.
says GI Crew Assemble. Yeah.
Okay.
Beyond Two Souls.
Be there soon.
Beyond Two Souls is one of the games included with PlayStation Plus this month, and I'm wondering, should I play the game with the new chronological order mode or play the original cut? My gut says go for the chronological order, but I worry that I'll miss out on some interesting storyline if I go that route. They put the game out of order for a reason, right? Yeah, I'd say don't do that new order mode. Just play the original
version.
version.
It really makes all that much of a difference in terms of how the whole story comes together in the end.
I feel like it'd be more boring
So-
if it was just laid out in order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would play it the original way.
Yeah.
Or maybe just
Scattershot.
play a different game entirely.
Beyond
You
Two
can
Souls-
miss the
That's
whole
also-
storyline.
It's worth experiencing. It is a
It
weird ass
is.
thing for free.
Is that
It's-
where Arrested Development Season 4 remix Final Fateful Consequences got the idea?
Yeah, because it is called
Oh.
Beyond Two Souls: Fateful Consequences. What do you guys think about that weird Arrested
Wait, are
Development
you
thing?
joking? It's not Beyond Two Souls. It's not really called Fateful Consequences.
No, it's a fucking joke, dude.
I was just making sure.
7, 8, 9. Okay, what do you think about that Arrested Development remix thing?
I'll watch it.
So the idea is they're taking season 4 and saying, "Give it another shot. We'll put it in
Right.
chronological order."
I like Season 4 as it was.
This is from Mr. H from Seattle. He says, "Any of you all have for want of a better term, a gaming. Help me out, Kyle. I think this is Yiddish. I don't know what this is.
Shibboleth.
Shibboleth? That is when meeting someone, they tell you they just love Game X, and you immediately say to yourself, this is a member of my tribe, a serious gamer, the chosen people. Obviously, someone being fond of Madden or Call of Duty is pretty darn generic and doesn't tell you a whole lot about that person, but somebody who goes on about Panzer General or Empire Deluxe, clearly somebody I have plenty in common with. Of course, this idea can be widened to encompass any sort of work, particular movie, book series, TV show, but I thought you all might want to keep it game-focused. Is there a particular trait? Is this just a particular trait of mine, or do you all share this minor obsession with me? You know that thing when you're talking to random people about games, and it happens every once in a while where they come in with this haymaker of, I'm super into the lore. I remember one of them was this person who was like, I like games. Okay, yeah. And they're like, I'm really into the lore of Guild Wars. It's like, what? Like,
Oh, weird.
Okay, real-ass gamer, that is beyond me.
There's one thing that always kind of identifies it for me in a weird way is that if they know a release date for an upcoming game, like if they're like, oh, I love Call of Duty, I always check those out. But if they're like, oh, I can't wait for the next Call of Duty on November such and such, then it's like, oh no, you're plugged in more than just a casual fan.
Right.
So that's something.
I had an old guy recently. I talked to a lot of old guys, and he, in an email exchange, he just said something like, I'm not exactly hiding in the bushes like Fortnite. He like put in parentheses like Fortnite, like that. He was like trying to be like hip, and that was just this like super.
And you're like, oh, this is a real gamer right here.
Shit, this guy knows his stuff. Come on to the show. Come on to the podcast.
My God, there are bushes in Fortnite.
I have friends who are just really into the lore of BioWare games. Like, but just the strangest lore. Like, I have a friend who, she's just, I don't know, she's really smart and really into history, and I forget.
I was about to say this won't end in a compliment.
No, it's and I forget her whole reasoning for it, but apparently it doesn't make sense for there to be like corn in Thetis in Dragon Age, and I don't know. She had this whole rant that she went on. I wish I could. And the other thing
Did
was,
you tell her that there's also elves?
And then in Andromeda, like when you wake up from cryo sleep, they offer you coffee, and we're joking, and we're like, you've been in cryo sleep, why on earth would they offer you coffee? Like the worst thing for like your digestive system after
hit the ground running,
being in cryo sleep. So
really sets the tone for the rest of Andromeda.
Just
Walters writes in, good old Walters, and says, anyway, clearly I cut some of this email out.
Again, moving right along.
Yeah, for the last time. Last episode, Hansen mentioned that he couldn't imagine digging up his old Rock Band equipment 10 years from now to play. Well, what if Harmonix released a Rock Band Mini 10 years from now? Imagine wireless guitars, drum, microphone that can sit on your desk. They could even come with stands so they can be displayed. You can strum a sick chord with your pinky or rattle the snare with your index finger. It'd be sick. That one was a joke, but it got me thinking about a real Mini that might actually work. Are you ready?
Mini
Ready.
ninjas.
tell us.
You sure, he says?
Is he talking about Guitar Hero DS?
Okay, here it is. This is actually a good idea. Okay. Skylanders Mini. 10, 15 years' time, when all the kids who are obsessed with Skylanders are all old enough to feel nostalgic about being obsessed with Skylanders, Activision pounces. They released a small plug-and-play portal with 10 NFC disc playable characters. They can make the disc look snazzy to catch a collector's eye, all that stuff. It's the perfect crime.
So not figures, but like little.
I think figures as well.
But like
just having
small.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just work with your phone. I think like those kids would be super into it.
Keychain size figures.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
They could
There
do
we
that
go.
Angry Birds game that had like little figures that are tiny little figures that you could use.
Oh, yeah?
And it was weird because the way it worked is you would put a magnifying glass over your camera and then you would hold the toy over the magnifying glass and it would scan the barcode and like add characters to the game.
What? Wow.
Yeah. It was not a success.
Speaking of weird stuff from gaming's past, Logan from Louisville, Kentucky says, hey, does anyone remember that crazy Easter egg from the first God of War that gave you a phone number to call and Kratos was on the other end?
Yeah, vaguely. I think you had to hit a combo counter or something.
Really?
Yeah, and then God of War 2 had something where if you hit like a 1,000,000-point combo, you could it would give you a code so that you could play God of War 2 in your PlayStation 3 in HD.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's not real, though.
No, it was,
But you're making that up.
it's a real thing.
What the hell?
I don't
That's so weird. Anyways, this person says, I was thinking it'd be interesting.
know.
I was thinking it'd be interesting to have Dan Tack call that number on the show and try to have a chat with Kratos. Dantech's gone, so that's not going to work. He's up in the
Normally
next
he would be
section, though.
totally up for that. He's just always
Yeah.
up for those kind of stuff.
Oh, he loves it. It's a fun prank. So he gives the phone number.
Oh, okay.
You guys
my
want to
God.
try and call?
Here, while you're
yes.
calling, recently Cork brought in a bunch of really old gaming magazines.
Yeah.
And there was an ad for Rayman that we were laughing at because it said, for more information, call 1-800-UBisoft. To find out more about this new Rayman character. And we called it, but the number was totally disconnected.
Honestly, this, I think, was it an intern? I think it might have been Surreal's idea. Yeah, Surreal's idea of going through the vault and finding those old instruction manuals and calling those old numbers. And so I did it for maybe 10 different random numbers, all disconnected. Even companies that are still around, like Blizzard, like those old tip lines and stuff, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Too bad.
But here we go. This is Kratos.
Can you
calling-
conference in Dantech?
Oh, yeah. Actually, can you do that? Let's just listen to what it says first. And
Let's
then
see
we'll
if the
try it.
number is real.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's disconnected, right?
I kind of doubt there's anything.
Oh, yeah?
Did you hit the speaker button?
Sure.
By the gods, you've done it.
What?
Somehow you found your way here to me. I offer you my congratulations and my respect.
Oh.
Together, we shall conquer the perils that lay before us, and we shall always...
Dude, they did it. They found our Easter egg.
Who are you?
Is that David Jaffe?
Me, David Jaffe. I directed the game.
What game?
Your game, God of War.
Go away or I'll...
Dude, don't you get it? These guys, they spent all that time breaking those statues. I mean, they must have taken, forever. And then they figured out the whole secret code thing.
I do not know what you are talking about.
We hid this secret pretty damn deep, huh, Kratos?
If I kill you, I will get help or...
So wait. If you got the secret from the net or a magazine, then actually you kind of suck. I mean, work for it a bit, right, Kratos? Actually, can I call you Krat?
No. Go away or I'll...
Don't you hate it when they get the codes off the net? So lazy. Hey, say, Krat, what are you so pale for?
I am serious.
You know, up close, you actually look kind of pasty, if you don't mind me saying. It's kind of gross.
Oh, Jackie. No, it's okay. It's an act. It's an act. It's an act.
Oh my God. I'm a grizzly man all of a sudden.
Worse than a screeching heart.
Never listen to this.
As I was saying, you have found the secret. You have done well. Congratulations, mortal. We will meet again.
In God of War for PlayStation 4.
Out now. Corey Barlog directed it.
I love that,
Isn't that
man.
weird?
That's
That
so
was
weird
so
and
cool.
stupid and
So
funny.
silly.
And
maybe.
Sony's paying to keep that up? Or do you think they just brought it back?
I
for the
think
new
that's
game?
Jaffee. I think that's Jaffe's home phone.
Yeah, it's a voicemail machine.
He just reenacts it every time someone calls. Hang on, I'm in the shower. Hang on. Coming out.
I love that. That's so.
That's-
I can't believe that's still working. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
you get like an
kidding.
early Jaffe rant pre-Twitter. It's really peak Jaffe. It's the earliest podcast known to man. It's the God of War tip line.
What if they had another one for the new God of War? It's just like Corey Barlog and the new Kratos.
Don't
hanging out.
hurt me, and then let's cry and talk about our feelings.
regret my past killing the previous director.
I would never hurt you, Corey.
I would never sit there and record something about a tip line.
That does explain why Jaffe never directed any of the follow-up God of Wars.
Yeah, you canonically die. And if you canonically die in your game, you can't direct a sequel. Everyone knows it. Okay, what do you guys like for email of the week?
I know it's just the last one, but I really like that God of War one.
That was awesome. That was
'cause
definitely
it
the
worked.
highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But I like the just purely for nostalgia question was good too.
I like the movie.
I like learning that Elise has seen Black Panther. I don't know, 4 times.
Yeah,
and
it
is
Kingsman
insane.
7 times.
Yeah, I like that. But you can't top that Kratos line.
Yeah,
it
you gotta
really
go with
works
that.
well. All right,
It
congratulations.
made the show better.
Yeah, Logan from Louisville, Kentucky. Congratulations
What
on making
does
the
he
show better.
win?
What's that, Leo? What's that?
What does he win?
Oh, to ship him out something real nice. No, that's not fair. Because of the international audience, we weren't shipping things out to them internationally, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to come up with something worldwide that would work. For email of the week, what do they get? And also, make it more public facing. What if it was,
Public facing worldwide. Those are the final hints as to what this is.
what could it be in the room? Okay, so what we have, fill the mic time here, Leo. Fill the mic time.
What we have here?
Tell us some of your favorite childhood jokes. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a brand new world map here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a fancy little pin in it from the location of the sender. of
That's
the
right,
email
Leo.
of the week.
That's exactly what we're doing. So, audio listeners, we'll still call it out for you guys, but on the physical set, which you can see on YouTube if you're interested, we have a lovely cork board, and we're going to track exactly where everyone's from. So, hopefully, this will fill up the entire thing.
Mhm.
But it's a nice competition as well. So, this officially puts Louisville, Kentucky on the big map.
The very first one.
The very first one.
Do you want like a fun phrase? Like, put it on the map.
Put on the big board.
Put on the big board.
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
It's officially sanctioned as God's country, some could say. But so you might say, this is a world map. Finding Kentucky on a world map, I don't know where this thing is, right? hold this for a second, Kyle.
So we've thought of that.
We thought of that, everybody. Relax at home, which is why we also got the backup zoomed-in version of just the United States. No Canada. I'm sorry, Elise.
Command plus.
Yeah, so this is for the zoomed-in version, so we're keeping track of both these things. And everybody knows where Louisville, Kentucky is.
All right.
This makes it so much easier.
Are any of you guys like good with geography? I'm awful with geography. I think
I'm not from this country.
That's a good excuse. I wish I had that excuse.
This is Kentucky.
That one?
No, this is West Virginia.
It's this one, right?
This is Tennessee.
That's Mountain Mama.
No,
I'll let
that's
you guys do
Ohio.
it.
Is it that one?
No, that's Indiana.
Is it this one?
That's
Kyle,
what I
you're
thought.
from the South.
That's what I thought you'd be prepared beforehand.
I didn't know it was going to be Louisville, Kentucky.
Kentucky's not the South.
Are you high?
Are you high?
Kentucky's as southern
We're
as it
all
gets.
high. Okay.
Where do you
let's
think
move on.
Kentucky is?
I think that Kentucky is this one.
It might be. That's not the South.
Are you? Kentucky fought for the South during the Civil War.
Yeah, but that's the line right there.
Mason Dixon, my ass. All right, Louisville, Kentucky, we're fixing it if it's not right. Congratulations. Congratulations to Logan from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
There we go.
I'm excited about this. I like this plan.
We're going to fill this sucker out.
Yeah, this is what it'll look like zoomed in. Here we go.
That's sweet.
Very nice.
It just
Okay.
takes over the majority of the globe, but that's
Oh,
cool.
there
Don't worry
goes my
about
country.
it. Oh, sorry.
All right, audio listeners,
There,
don't
it's
worry.
still there
We're going to
now.
move on. Podcast@gameformer.com. Send you emails in the future. As for now, God of War.
Yes.
Holy cow. Let's dive in deep on the entire second half of God of War. So stay tuned for a big, long chat. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Game Informer Show, and welcome to the grand finale of our God of War GI Game Club. Holy cow!
We did it!
Kratos and Atreus made it to the finish line, and now we're gonna do it just like those little buddies, right everybody?
We're the
Yeah.
first ones to make it to the end.
Also, sincerely, I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for sticking with it. I think we'll have to go back through the annals of Game Club history. I think this is the first with multiple episodes where it's the exact same crew. So I'm still here. Kyle Hilliard's here.
Yep.
Brian Shea's here.
Hey.
Cyril Vasquez is here.
Hello.
Dan Tack is here.
What do the runes say, boy?
There we go. Made
Didn't
the
we do
bullet
it with
reference.
Pokemon Sun and Moon?
I don't think it was
No,
the exact
I
same.
joined for the second episode.
Exactly. This is fun. This is fun. So we're talking about everything in God of War from when you meet the character Mimir up until super duper credits roll and then beyond. So everything left
everything.
to say. So if you
Super
haven't done
duper
any of
credits.
that, I would hold back and not watch this because we're going to spoil.
Yeah, this
a
is
whole
not
lot
a
of
game
stuff.
you want to be spoiled on.
It really isn't.
I assure
especially
you.
Leo in the booth, you maniac. He insists he doesn't care.
This isn't about me.
Leo, we have continually established that Leo has terrible taste.
He has different taste.
Well, look, it's odd, but
Leo-
again, you don't
Leo,
want
I'll
to be spoiled.
spare you.
That's a separate game club where we talk about Leo's taste.
People
Oh
are
my
always too
gosh.
sensitive about spoilers, but that's just me.
Oh my god.
Whoa,
Okay, we
whoa.
finished God of War. Did you guys, was there a timer anywhere in the game that I missed for playtime?
Good question.
Didn't see one.
I didn't see
Look
one.
for one, really.
Okay, but yeah, it felt like a lot. Did you guys, I take it, spent a lot more time in the second half than the first half?
I definitely did. And I want to say a few things real quick if I can take the floor for about a minute.
Opening statement, please.
All right,
Yeah.
Dan Tack.
So, Can I do that?
I will have the rebuttal, but yes, please.
Yeah, sure. So the second half of the game completely turned me around on this game. I was pretty dismissive and very critical of it in the first half of this game club. I've never had a game turn me around like this. There were multiple aspects that did this, and I'm sure we'll get into them, but I loved Mimir as a character. I loved seeing Atreus go dark side. That really did it for me, and it juxtaposed very nicely with his sort of childlike innocence in the first half that annoyed me.
Yeah.
And then seeing him after he's like, I know I'm a god, so I'm a badass, and I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. I like the cinematic stuff in the second half a lot more, like flying on the freaking dragon. I like going to Helheim way more than any of the environments in the earlier half, that freaking giant raven thing. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
And very satisfying conclusion. And let's move on. That's all I want to say.
And that's it for this episode of the DI Game Club. Thanks so much for doing it.
I just want to get that on the table first.
Dantec, do you want to just look directly at the camera and beg YouTube not to roast you anymore in the comments?
I mean, they can roast me. I do. I still mean what I said about the first half.
Which is interesting.
They're always going to roast you, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm not dialing back anything, but I am saying, wow. Not only did it it's like, can this pull me together? Can it pull me back in? I'm like, yes, it can. Oh, Blades of Chaos. The moment where you get those and you go outside.
You want to just go through every moment here? We got a lot of emails to get through, buddy.
I wanted to talk about Blades of Chaos.
Well, that was my specific turning point, though.
Oh, really?
When you get those blades and you go outside and there's like 1,000 guys and you just rip them all to shreds, I was just like sitting there.
Yeah.
Just
I have a lot to say about Blades of Chaos.
Oh, great. Kyle, I'm looking forward to it. You're the expert.
And I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I appreciate it, Dan.
There we go.
Thank you for being a good sport and sharing your opinion on the
All right, now for
game.
my minute.
No, shut up. Here we go. First off, thank you to absolutely everybody that wrote in. We got hundreds of emails. It's a lot to go through. I had to edit them all down to nuggets that hadn't been covered 1,000 times because there were probably 120 emails that are like, Blades of Chaos are awesome, or it's like, okay, great. Who to choose? So don't be offended if I didn't include yours, but thank you so much for writing in. Jeff from Massachusetts voices a concern that's come up a lot. He says, I think you have put the goalpost too far into the game for casual players for this game club. Which I hear you. There's a lot of people who are like, I can't finish this amazing game in 2 weeks. I want to take my time. Totally understand it. I know this was a rushed one. I'm sorry. We'll try and space it out more in the future. I think we're also worried about spoilers, that we really wanted to get through it. So I appreciate everybody that kept up or destroyed their lives trying to keep up. So thank you so much. Also, just a huge trend, and I don't know what this means for sales figures for Sony, but a huge trend across all the emails. A lot of people said this is their first God of War ever.
Wow.
Which I didn't expect. Maybe it's just like PlayStation 4
the new generation
system sales.
of players maybe too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, PS2 sold pretty well as well.
Yeah, yep, for sure. No doubt about it, Brian Shea. Cameron from Indiana has a broad one. He just says, hey, I have one question, though. Coming into this, Norse mythology was already my favorite mythos to read and talk about, and has really enriched my experience from name drops like Fafnir and all the lore collectibles in the game. I get a sense of excitement when something new shows up. Were any of you really into Norse mythology beforehand? Marvel doesn't count. Were some mythology reveals... Did some of the mythology reveals really stand out to you?
Yeah, I think I talked about this in the first episode a little bit, how that sort of like, I guess, led me to make some conclusions, some of which happened, some of which didn't.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sort of a mythology geek, so I did enjoy all that stuff. Lots of really good stuff. And more so even where it can go from here with interconnected mythologies coming together. Super excited about that.
Not to jump too far ahead, but there was one at the very end that I'm sure all of us were like, whoa, as far as like having a little bit of understanding of Norse mythology.
Are we going to do that now?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to jump ahead to that.
I mean, well,
Loki is what I'm talking
yes,
about. We can get into it more later, but that was the big one that I was like, oh, I know that name, and I know a little bit about him.
I know the weird parenting history. Yeah, honestly, Dan, like I love Scandinavian mythology. I took a class on it in college and stuff, but it's all pretty hazy. But the biggest thing throughout this entire game is just thinking of Age of Mythology, because that game's all about putting Greek and Egyptians and the Norse against each other. True. And like we mentioned, like the map names for a lot of these different realms and stuff. But I think about that game all the time while playing this game. It's like God of War is just starting to get to the cool area that Age of Mythology covered in 2003, right? Dan?
I mean, hey, I can see that.
Yeah.
I think it has fun with it in a very smart way. It would be easy to make it like arcadey and comical, but like the way that's been set up is very interesting, I think.
Yeah. Luke Chambers writes in and says, Dear podcasters, after you said the name about 100 times, I cannot take it anymore. It is pronounced Mimir, not Mimir, not
Yes, Mimir, not Mimir. Correct. I got it.
That Leo in the booth is shaking his head, and I agree. He's saying it's not Mimir, it's Mimir.
Mim, like ear on your head. Mim.
I don't know.
Emphasis on the mim, so Mimir.
And he says, actually, I'm curious now. Do they pronounce it Mimir in the game? I wonder who it was that had no consulting on Old Norse pronunciation. Luke is an expert, apparently. That's very cool. Hey, guys, says Neil Simpson from Struthers, Ohio. So I've been trying my hardest to avoid spoilers at all costs for God of War, but one night, YouTube had enough and suggested a whole slew of spoiler videos for the game.
It'll do that.
Namely, the Blades of Chaos and Zeus reveals. So I was wondering what, if anything, got spoiled for you guys before you finished the game. By the way, it's my first game club, and I'm digging it. Thank you.
I didn't go on YouTube before I finished. That's like that's rule number one.
Those comments are absurd.
Some of us have to go on YouTube.
I don't care. Like I can wait a week to hear people tell me I'm stupid. Like I
couldn't. I had to.
But I mean, like Hanson and I, like we're looking around YouTube for work. For uploading videos and stuff like that is what I'm getting at. So.
Yeah, I guess so. So what I saw is in the comments section, there was a lot for, because I have like a feed of all of the YouTube comments across all of the Game Informer's content, and our rapid fire stuff in particular. There were a lot of people leaving comments like, ha ha, like, oh, Corey had to dodge this question, Corey had to dodge this question. So what people said, that the one I saw was like, I love his reaction. Now I know why he didn't give the reaction that Athena might appear in the game or something. Because we asked about an Athena cameo and he just gave a blank stare. So a lot of people were like time stamping that. And so I saw that. And that was one of those things I was like, well, I could have assumed. But that's not the end of the world. I knew about Freya being the witch the whole time. That was a tough one to keep in, I guess, a little bit. For the last game club of constantly referring to her as witch instead of Freya. And then Blades of Chaos, I didn't know. But the way people were talking about it, especially Joe in the discussion on this podcast, where he's like, later on, it feels more like God of War. And then everybody saying the game can be spoiled for you just by looking at the second half. That was one of those things like, okay, well, I can imagine.
So before the game came out, I think even before Game Club, before I even started playing, I think someone had said like, Blades of Chaos are in the game. And I just ignored it. I just thought it was a lie. Because
where did somebody say
I don't
this?
know. It was a comment. Someone was very like confident. They're like, I've seen a screenshot that has the Blades of Chaos in them.
Oh, wow.
And it was before the game was even out. I was like, this guy's just BSing. Like, I just don't believe him. And like I convinced myself effectively because it was a total surprise for me. And I even went back and listened to the first episode. I explicitly said Blades of Chaos would not be in the game.
Right. You grabbed the microphone and confidently shouted into it.
So I was so ecstatic to be wrong about that. I was so happy to be wrong about that. I don't know. Should we get into Blades of Chaos or you want to read some more emails?
Oh, we will definitely get into that. Plenty. Elijah from Dallas, Texas is wondering, what stood out to me in the discussion is just how wrong many of you were in predicting the game. Don't get me wrong, this isn't an insult, but when I was at those points of the story, I thought along mostly the same lines that you did. Here are some of the examples I remember from the podcast. Blades of Chaos will not be in the game, Kyle said. The game ends with Atreus' revelation of his true nature. Yep. All or most of the realms are just challenge sequences. Yeah. Jokes about a Mayan adventure didn't come true. For the record, that's what Corey Barlog said on the cover story trip. He made a reference to a Mayan adventure, so that wasn't me predicting.
For Super Nintendo?
Yep, he talked about it a lot. It's fun to go back and listen to that because, like, in that discussion, Dan, you got pretty close with a lot of stuff, which is nice.
I tried.
Yeah, you did it. Like the Baldur fight, I totally didn't think that was going to be the end, and totally was. But I made myself laugh when in the last game club I was like, what if Kratos was Loki the whole time? Like, we were down the Loki rabbit hole, but in terms of him shape-shifting, not an Atreus twist.
Yeah, I think one of us predicted it was the dwarves that were Loki because he was always just like appearing wherever we were.
Yeah, I forget. It might have been somebody that wrote in about it. Yeah, for sure. Okay, Mike Lujan says, I'm hoping for bigger fights and more twists and turns for the second half. But even if it's just more exploring with Kratos and Atreus, I think I'd be happy with that too. He hadn't finished it yet. But
I got to comment on that really quick. Actually, for all my love of the second half and how I think it turned the game around, and I have it is a strict 180 from my original opinion. But I did still get that recycled boss feeling a ton. Yeah. Especially when in Helheim, when it's just, I'm like, okay, this is like the bridge keeper or whatever. Guess what? He's still just that stupid troll with a rock club again.
Yeah.
Every single time.
One time they teleport between their attacks, but yeah, it just seems like for a large part of the game, you are going from those troll fights.
Yeah. And it
just feels like a bit of a bummer.
The Bridge Watcher guy in particular, I think, was a disappointment because it was just like, all right, now he shoots these little energy things at you and throws ice waves at you. So it's like that could have been a really cool fight, especially like with all the things that could be in Helheim.
Oh, the things that you see in Helheim.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe we're going to be a boss fight and then we're cut. It's unclear. But okay, so Tommy,
that bird thing.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Someone wrote in about the bird, which you can get to, but Tommy from Chicago writes in on that exact note. He says, the combat is brilliant and extremely challenging for most of the game, even on the harder modes. Queen of the Valkyries was one of the most intense gaming moments I've ever had. I hope we can talk about that in a bit. Enemy variety, on the other hand, was lacking. There's a real sense of visual variety in the older games with Cyclops, Medusas, Minotaurs, Harpies, massive gods coming to battle every so often. The new game has humanoid, undead types, dark elves, trolls, and rock monsters. Only the Dark Elves come close to being as imaginative a design as the previous enemies. There are one or two giant creatures that are story-centric, but you never fight. That is, I mean, it's a weird thing we're thinking about this game and Breath of the Wild. It seems like enemy variety is kind of lacking in both, much more so in Breath of the Wild, but it doesn't seem like too many people are using it as a huge negative, but it is noticeable.
Yeah, it was noticeable, like, because again, it's just like, okay, I'm going to have to fight some huge thing. I'm to this next turning point. I'm really having a great time, and it's another troll.
Right.
I mean,
and going to the Breath of the Wild thing, I think that because combat is much more of a centerpiece in God of War than it is in Breath of the Wild, where it's more exploration based. That's why it sticks out a lot more in God of War. But yeah, I do wish that we had some of those bigger like mini boss fights. I wish they were were mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of the bird, the first time you see the bird, it's very far away, and I was like, "What is that? It's super scary,
Absolutely.
super awesome." And then you get to see it right up close to you when you're on the ship going through.
I'll be back in
it's
the
just like-
second game.
Yeah, you never do it. There's no interaction with it.
I did appreciate that as kind of just a setting the stage of like,
Sure.
oh, what is that? Oh, I don't even know what that thing is.
Totally.
I liked how mysterious it was. So that didn't bug me too much that I didn't have
It didn't
to fight
bug
or
me that
anything.
it was just something to see,
Yeah.
but that we lacked spectacle in boss battles, I guess.
There's only a couple that are really. Yeah.
I mean, the dragon fight with Baldur was more satisfying to me than the final battle with Baldur. I really liked the dragon fight. With
I
Baldur.
agree.
agree with
No
you
one,
there.
out of all the emails, no one wrote in specifically about the dragon fight with Baldur,
love
which was
that.
really surprising.
That was another turning moment for me where
Yeah.
I started to appreciate the cinematic combat instead of sort of fight against it.
Also, yeah, I thought it was so smart in that fight how they kept for long stretches, even it was basically just a cutscene, they kept the UI on the screen as like a subtle way to trick you into thinking you
Even
had
though
more
you weren't
control.
even doing anything.
No,
it
of
was
course not.
great. Yeah.
Also, I loved when Kratos throws Baldur off the dragon, and as Baldur's falling, you can hear him laugh just like a little bit. Like he's still really enjoying this. It's so cool. But real quick, Demetrius writes in and says, first time writer here. Hello. Congratulations on learning how to write, Demetrius. He says, the second half of God of War is insane. I love going to hell, though I did want to find out what that giant bird thing was you see in the background the entire time. You're there, but you never actually get close to it. But I guess it speaks to the story and Kratos' new outlook. If it doesn't concern him, he doesn't give a crap. Which is a good perspective.
Yeah.
I liked it as in that way. I liked that it was just there, just background dressing. You know.
Yeah. And Cameron from Tallahassee writes in and says, were you guys disappointed? Because it seems like you all were hoping for a larger scope for the game's second half.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not like in retrospect, I'm not super bummed by it because it does feel I understand the scope of it better now. But yeah, it was definitely one of those weird things where it's like, I guess I was expecting a lot more out of sort of the scope of the game at first, because it feels like in the first half you are going, you start off with your journey to the mountain and then you go to whatever the woods where you find the witch, and then you're in Alfheim, and like it feels like, oh, you're jumping from all these different worlds. It feels so expansive, and then the second half feels more condensed in that way, even though you do go to a couple of new realms. The scope sort of started shrinking as I played more of it.
Yeah, totally. Shay,
Yeah, I thought for sure there was going to be some confrontation with Thor, even if you didn't fight him. Like, especially once you start killing his kids, like
come out and play, Thor.
Exactly.
Still nothing. Yeah.
like
Bottles on your
nothing
hands.
whatsoever.
Brendan from Atlanta says, I just finished God of War and really enjoyed it. It is overtly slow to start, and for most of the game, every location felt it lasted a little bit too long. We're being close to the end of each story beat. I was ready to move on and felt it lingered in some locations more than it should have. Am I the only one who felt this way? Could this be attributed to a mostly dark corridors or snowy landscapes that led to this? I'm hoping not alone, but it could just be me. That's Brendan from Atlanta. I guess like redoing the entire mountain sequence, even though you skip a lot of the puzzles and stuff, that was maybe one of the biggest moments in the game of like, it's streamlined, but it does seem like, do I have to go all this distance again?
Yeah.
And you can't port there. I was like, why do we have to go back to that stupid mine?
Well,
I did it once.
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the backtracking was done well in this game to establish like the scale of the world. I didn't really mind traveling back through these areas because they are all pretty small.
Well, I didn't
ultimately.
mind it because it did hit the story beats, but I feel they could have done those in other areas, like where Atreus kills, Modi? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was great. Like, just really like Dark Atreus, and then finding out he's Loki at the end. I mean, that's a setup for,
That's funny because I was really heartbroken by Dark Atreus. Like
I knew because you were so into him being a good kid.
Yeah, I'm glad he kind of turned around. Those sequences made me feel like a disappointed father, where I was like, oh, what are you doing, man? Like you're going the wrong path here. You're getting in with the drug kids and stuff like that. Like be a good kid again. So I was happy when he kind of turned back around. So in a weird, like, I appreciate it in the context of the story, but I actually don't really like Dark Atreus just because I don't want him to be a bad kid in a weird way.
Outside of the complete unbelievability where he actually shoots an arrow at Kratos in that one scene, I thought it was very. It made a lot of sense how he was.
That's the part of this game you're like, that's not believable.
Yeah, I didn't think that he would do that no matter what. Even though he was going the route of like, I'm a god and I can do what I want. It's a childlike power, like like zapping ants with a magnifying glass. It really came out and really like gave that character a lot more depth that I didn't think that he would have in that game, because in the first half, like I said, I found him rather annoying, and the cliche wondrous kid who's like, I'm gonna run ahead now. Hey, there's something cool here. Let's go exploring. And then he's just like, you know what? I'm a god. I can do what I want. Right?
Yeah.
Did you guys go into the side quests? Did you do all the dwarf side quests and stuff?
I didn't.
There's
I didn't
one.
do
I think
them.
it's the last one. he, which I'm still playing, by the way, after seeing credits. Like, I'm still doing all the side quests and stuff. He actually goes in, they have a conversation about, Dad, sometimes I get mad at you. And Kratos is like, what do you get mad at me about?
Oh, really?
And it's funny because they are trying to help the ghost who killed his father.
Yes.
And Atreus is like, oh, I can't believe anyone would kill their father, because that's how the conversation comes
Right.
up. Because I get mad at you sometimes, Dad, but I would never kill you. But the funny thing about that is I played it after the end of the game.
Yes.
And they kind of ignore the fact that Kratos told his son that he killed his dad. Like that sort of, it was almost, I played it out of sequence because they don't bring that up.
Yeah, totally. I did a lot of the side quests after that too, after the end of the game. And I was like, I wonder how many of these little conversations are going to feel out of place, because I had that same one too where he's so shocked. Like,
That's
who would
the
ever
only
kill their father? And Kratos was like,
That's the only one, to be fair, that I had kind of a pause. Everything else is growing the world in a way that I would say is worth going and keep still playing. Like to hear Mimir's stories.
Oh, Luke Chambers hates what you just did.
I tried to do it right.
I know.
I will say though, he added so much, and I just want to say that Mimir added so much. Like when it was just Kratos and Atreus, like that I wasn't digging, and then with Mimir there for his like colorful commentary all the time in the second half made a big difference to me.
I was so worried that he was going to be annoying, and I was going to hate him being there like along for the ride. But like I agree, he was awesome, and he had a lot of fun commentary, and a lot of history, and a lot of like lore.
Oh, for sure. And even more so than the first half. I know that people are praising this game for like having the conversations stop when they get out of the boat. Like, we'll pick this up later. I was petrified because I also had a couple other conversations cut off. And I'm so into the little dialogue in this game that every time Amir was talking or any sort of like lore was happening, I would just stop and wait.
I sat at
You're right on the shore
docks.
waiting for the story to be over.
Yeah, exactly. Just taking my boat in circles. It was so stupid.
You could just sit still.
Well, I guess that also works.
By the way, I like that Kratos calls Mimir head.
Yeah, throughout the entire game. Yeah.
And I also like that he told, before he gets revived, he told Atreus that he can feed him to the fish if they're not able to bring him back to life. And Atreus is like, hooray, I get to feed the fish.
Yeah, he's super into it. He's like, okay. Yeah. Also, I loved, after like the big fight on the elevator scene, Kratos is talking to Atreus. He's like, you did well. And then Mimir's like, thanks. He's like, the boy. And then Mimir's like, just having a little fun, you big grump.
Yeah,
like,
that's good. I like that.
And I was confused about like, man, do we really need two people in combat shouting out like what's happening around you when Mimir started doing it as well? But then once Atreus went down, it's like, okay, it makes sense. So they're setting up Mimir to kind of fill that role when you don't have Atreus for
also to draw the Hellblade line that we haven't gotten into a lot. That's another game where you're carrying a head around on your hip. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's the trilogy of that.
Also, Lollipop Chainsaw.
I had Lollipop Chainsaw.
Jacob writes in and says, my favorite moment so far has to be during the Mimir. I'm sorry, Luke, we're not going to do it. Conversation.
We can't. We're trying. We're trying our best.
Or he says, I'm going to cut your head off now. What a zinger. He's totally right. Yeah, I love Mimir all the way through. I'm really happy.
Yeah, he's a good addition.
A great addition. We have just like a scattershot of moments that people, it's like their favorite stuff. It's pretty specific and small stuff. If you're ready for this.
Let's do it.
Brett Williams says, I really like the puzzle in Tyr's Temple with Skull and Haiti, the wolves. The puzzles in this game seem better than those in previous games, but it's been so long since I played them that I don't really recall. Kyle, you're a puzzle expert and a God of War expert. How do you think the puzzles stack up?
There are fewer of them and they're simpler.
Yeah. Thank God.
I know you don't like them. I love them. I liked all the puzzles. I thought they were great. I liked all the puzzles in the original God of Wars too.
Yeah.
But they're less involved this time around to kind of keep the pace of the story going, which I appreciate. I liked it.
This one was interesting in particular, just having a puzzle and then it also on a timer because you're being lowered into the water. And Mimir's that great line where he's like, I don't know if I can drown. Hurry up.
Yeah, that was good.
Can he? I don't know. But I hated having a puzzle on a timer, but I think it might be BS because it really took me a long time to get that puzzle.
Oh, I died.
Did you really?
Yeah, I died on it twice.
I think it's based on how many times you get. Like, it's not a timer. It's how often you move the thing. So you get like 5 moves, I think.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I died as well. Yeah.
I think it was during that section.
Mimir? No, I don't know.
I can drown.
I think when he comes back up, I think he says, "Oh, I guess I can't drown," right? Doesn't he? Because you do go low. Your hip goes below the water if you take.
I think
too
it
long.
does. I don't remember him saying anything.
He would have been below the entire sequence.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think he might have had a line about that.
He maybe did. Also, I think it's that section. I love just the Norse porn. I think this entire game is Norse porn. But just that moment then when they're talking about the wolves and Ragnarok and chasing the moon and the sun and all that stuff. And I think it's at that moment that Mimir has that line where he says it like, the Vanir used to mess with time much, much more, but then it got to the point where the wolves were catching up with the sun and the moon, and that was too scary, so we decided to stop messing with time overall.
Speaking of Norse porn, I like the scene where Kratos throws down the vase with like the Greek stuff on it, with his picture on it. It was kind of like someone coming up on him when he was looking at something he shouldn't be on a laptop, and violently closing the laptop and being like, "Oh, I wasn't looking at anything."
Violently closing the laptop, but it's one of those like twisty Windows laptops where then it rotates and lands on the ground with the screen still facing up, and just still like perfectly intact. And Trey's just like, "Oh, okay, good artwork, Dad." John Wakefield writes in and says, "Did anyone love the Thamur head level segment as much as me? Awesome backdrop, and the detail on that big old beard was incredible."
Is that the giant?
Yeah, that's the giant
chisel?
we're climbing around to get
I
the
didn't know
chisel.
cool. I like the wolf guys, but I didn't particularly care for the puzzles in that area.
Yeah. I like that Kratos' plan was just like, I have an idea to get... You're talking about getting the chisel,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
And his plan was basically like, let's just climb up and hope for the best.
Can you figure out my puzzle, Atreus? Do you see why I'm so smart doing all this?
I mean, I like that conversation of like, here, learn from me. But like the thing that he's trying to teach him is like, if you climb really high and start falling, it'll probably work out.
Also, I think it's the only time in the game where Atreus says boy, because he goes, "Boy, Thamur sure does love jewelry." I wrote that down like, oh, interesting.
That's
The
funny.
tides have fully turned. Nate McClellan says, "I also don't know if we're covering side quest spoilers." This one isn't bad, though. There's a moment in Fafnir's storeroom quest where it's revealed a Reaver kills his father and takes the loot, and Atreus says, "How could he kill his dad?" And Atreus is looking and facing the camera and says, "Oh, man, you don't even know." That was what Kyle mentioned. Thank you. Nick from Atlanta says, "Random thing I noticed. Sindri says in one scene, 'Swear to Freya,' which I thought was interesting, and it conveys that he respects Freya more than Odin. Curious if you think that has any larger meaning for where the story could go." I guess I didn't pick up on
Odin's
that.
an
But
asshole.
They're saving the heavy hitters like Odin, obviously.
yeah.
I can't wait to see him.
But in terms of like Sindri and Brock interacting with Freya or like really worshiping
Oh,
Freya.
do you think like the dwarfs will side with Freya whenever?
Oh, that could be
rises?
interesting. I doubt it, but
Yeah.
I think
Is
they're
that,
clearly
is that what that person
established.
is alluding to?
I don't know what that person's alluding to, but it is a good little detail that they picked up on.
It's interesting. But I think it is just like a little interesting world moment of like, instead of saying swear to God, obviously, sort of this God in particular. But I don't know if it really shows allegiance towards Freya in any specific.
Yeah.
I don't think there's allegiance toward Freya. I mean, you can sort of read into that. He gave the mistletoe to Atreus in the first place.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah, which was a really nice story setup. Like that was like kind of like the Pixar-esque almost of just like planting something early to really deliver on it later.
Yeah,
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Pixar invented.
Well, I know they didn't invent, but they are very specific about like they talk about in their commentaries a lot of just like that's what we really like to do is plant things that grow later, you know. And obviously they didn't invent that, but they're very good at it.
Yeah, for
Freya
sure.
was none too pleased with those arrows.
Yeah.
Get these out of here!
Yeah, that was really smart.
Barbara Jo, hero of Game Club, I think she's written into every single one, says, if you talk to the germaphobe dwarf enough, he tells you his brother turned blue because he worked too much with silver and didn't protect his skin. It's actually a real thing. It's a condition called argyria. There we go.
Yeah,
also,
Cork had me Google that the other morning. I had no idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not get that conversation. That's fun. Okay, Michael McAnally says, I loved how Kratos finally tells Atreus that he's a god. I thought he was so true to each of the characters. Kratos literally can't comprehend anything other than a negative reaction to the news given his own hatred for the gods. But Atreus responding with excitement is exactly what a kid would do. I burst out laughing at his immediate, "Can I turn into an animal?" line? And a dumbfounded way Kratos repeated it. Obviously, a couple
Speaking
people
of
wrote
foreshadowing.
it. Yeah, amazing foreshadowing on that.
Can I turn into a horse and have sex with another horse?
Which he does.
Yeah. Spoiler for the second game.
God. And he likes it, which is the weird thing. Also, someone wrote in with an interesting observation about just Kratos revealing so much. Mike Gianetto says, kind of a cop-out that Kratos tells Atreus how he killed his father Zeus, who really deserved it, but conveniently left out how he killed his last family and still wears their ashes.
Well, that wasn't Kratos' fault.
Okay, but it is, you think at some point, if he's revealing everything, there's even that scene where he's like, I have nothing left to hide. Look at my stinky arms. You think at that point that he would have mentioned
He didn't have a whole lot of time to tell the whole tale.
Yeah,
though.
really. By the way,
He was a little, strained for time.
They were
at the
occupied.
moment. Hold on, let me sit down and read you this wiki entry that I have on myself.
I could see that being like a big sequel revelation and Atreus being mortified by it and even affecting their relationship in a big way.
I do remember I feel like the first time he mentioned something about him fighting people in the past, I think it was in Helheim, where Atreus is sort of indifferent to okay, I guess he did something like that, and there was almost like a Kratos looking at the camera moment, going like, Well, we'll see what happens.
Wait, about what would he be referring to?
Like the fact that his father, like when he saw Zeus in
Right.
Helheim, and like Atreus doesn't seem super like concerned about it yet because it doesn't affect him. Like he's not. This was before he tells him he's a god.
Well, and then even later on, Kratos is even like, you saw that moment, and Atreus is like, I don't care. Like, we got stuff to do. Like, let's move.
And then like there's a point where like Kratos almost looks at the camera and just says, all right.
It's also, I mean, Atreus is not going to recognize that guy.
Right.
I mean, he has seen his dad kill like a million things up to this point. What is a sort
including
of
gods.
a hologram? Yeah, including a hologram of some bearded dude. He's like, my dad has a messed up past. I don't know who that guy is. Maybe I owed him money or something.
I love the detail that Mimir knows Zeus, though.
Yes.
Where he's like, oh, you're the son of Zeus? That explains a lot.
He's like, I knew.
Yeah.
What did he say? I knew you were Spartan, for the record.
I knew you were Greek.
Yes,
He's like,
I love
but
that
then
line.
it's because Kratos said Athena out loud that Mimir's like, all right,
Oh, yeah.
that's when it locked in that clearly you're Greek. But I love that also that idea that Norse mythology, and maybe just Mimir especially, like they know what's going on in the other mythologies, whereas if you would ask Zeus about Mimir, we'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
They do because they set it up with Tyr, right? So Tyr is the one who
Yeah.
did the outsourcing to
Which there were Egyptian symbols in there.
Egyptian,
too.
Egyptian, Shinto, and Celtic.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Cool. Yeah. The other thing, Mimir calls him Ghost of Sparta specifically.
Yes.
Which
He's like, you're the Ghost of Sparta.
yeah.
Holy crap, I'm on your
Which-
belt.
He's like, don't call me that or something,
Yeah.
right?
I love that as like as a callback to the previous games, but it also cemented Mimir as being like, this guy really knows his stuff. Like, not that I wasn't unsure of that, but
Yeah.
like the fact that he even goes, back that far and knows about that separate world was
Yeah,
really
he goes
cool.
beyond his own realm.
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
but
that
he
was
can't
exciting.
quite remember the Baldur stuff. It's foggy. I don't know.
No, he had
I
it like
guess-
whatever they made up some plot twist.
Well,
some
Freya
plot
had like a
mechanic.
spell that like
Yeah.
blocked
Wouldn't
his
let-
memory.
yeah, I thought that was-
But going
mistletoe
back
thing.
to those like different symbols that we're seeing, like it's really becoming like an Assassin's Creed type of thing where we're like, oh, where are they going next?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this will be cool.
I love that room and just like studying all the stuff in there. I was kind of disappointed there weren't more subtle Easter eggs. I mean, obviously, if you give a mouse a cookie, it's like, show me all the mythologies in here. But a lot of it's just kind of like generic gold and helmets and stuff. I was hoping to be rewarded more for really studying the environment art a little bit more.
One more Mimir quote that I really loved is when he was talking about, oh, you're the Ghost of Sparta. He's like, by the way, I heard that Pantheon had it coming. Was like a thing that he
Right.
said, which I really
Yeah,
loved,
that's
too.
fun for sure. Randolph Sparks, you'll like this one, Kyle. Says, my favorite small moment is when Freya asks Kratos if he's familiar with hell, to which he replies, not this one. I thought that was a funny nod to Kratos' mandatory trip to Hades in all of the old
The
God
best
of War
part of
games.
the original God of War.
Was that bad?
No, everyone hates that part.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, some people also hated this version of hell. What did you I will tell you.
Whoa.
What did you think about hell overall, guys?
Okay, since we're going to start overall, I liked it more than a lot of the other areas. I liked the Hell's Breath was more interesting than some of the other previous puzzle mechanics.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that transferring the...
Yeah.
The ship sequence was a bit long in the tooth.
Yep.
Definitely overstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
And again, the Bridge Watcher was not great, but the actual aesthetic of the zone I enjoyed greatly.
Yeah, I like that, it's not our idea of the Greek or even like Christian hell. I like the idea of like, oh, it's just so cold there, it's messed up. I like all the statues too, how they had like that constant breeze going. And I love the shivering corpses that were rambling or shambling around. And the fact that they were freezing too.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're just stuck being cold forever now. That's the worst version of hell.
I like that you could kind of walk through the souls too, and they would kind of
Yeah.
evaporate around, which was very cool.
And when they set up the idea that like, if you're not going to Valhalla, it's like, okay, the people died of old age, people who died because they're sick, they'll come here, which I don't think they talked about Atreus at that point, but it's interesting with like Atreus being sick and then talking about how everyone that's sick gets
He was
stuck
still
in
a
hell.
warrior, so he'd be all right.
Yeah. Oh, I think Mimir even has a good line where it's like, well, you're never too old to get out there on the battlefield and go down fighting. Come on, everybody. Houston. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Juan Saldana from Houston, Texas says, hello,
was there
Game
no
Informer.
elaboration on that? He just didn't like the zone? There's no...
That's what I'm getting to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're getting to. He says, Game Informer, hell. What the hell is up with hell in this game? I honestly believe the game, when it all comes down to it, does deserve a perfect score, but I think that part of the game was pretty weak and boring overall.
God, compared to some of the earlier areas like Elfheim, I really
I
enjoyed
liked
it.
Elfheim more, yeah.
I think it is sort of the least breathtaking location visually, just because I know there's not a lot of room for like, here's a cool mountain and lots of forested areas, but it felt like it was the most sort of like, here's a generic backdrop for like some sort of like music video or something where it's just like there's a lot of vibrant colors or whatever coming at you.
Right.
That's
like
DLC.
a lot of green or whatever. It just seems like the sort of the least interesting location visually. But I do like the puzzle mechanics, but the boat section went.
I think what was frustrating, yeah, I like the whipping puzzle mechanics, like you talked about, the Breath of Hell, whatever it is. But in Hell, I think I was the most frustrated by not being able to jump, because there's a lot of those situations where I felt like I was just navigating simple areas. It's like, look, it's like 5 feet off the ground, Kratos. Come on, dude.
I know exactly the part you're talking about, where you got to thunk that stupid thing like 3 times. It's like up to his hip, and he's like, I can't go up there.
Yeah,
go
and I'm fine not having a jump, but don't.
I can't lift my knees that high.
Don't gate your game then by having such a little ledge. That just inherently will frustrate all your players.
Yeah. Well, it's been established that Kratos is not capable physically.
That's true. Yeah.
He's very heavy.
Tim, by the way, speaking of heavy real quick, because I'm not going to have another moment to talk about this probably. I love the moment too when Kratos is flipping the temple over. And Mimir is like, lift with your legs. And Atreus is like, he knows.
He knows.
He's on top of it.
We've been to the chiropractor. Okay, we know.
Tim Ferreira from Phoenix, Arizona says, as a dad myself, I can tell you there's nothing worse than when your kid is sick. I really felt the impact every time Atreus would cough or wheeze in the background, especially when he became really sick after raging. The only other game that made me empathize as a dad was The Last of Us.
Yeah, and I loved the camera work. I actually rewatched the sequence last night after Atreus passed out from his illness.
Yeah.
And Kratos is carrying him, and he's riding up that long elevator ride to the witch's cave.
Yes.
And the camera just kind of does a full 360 around him. That was really well done. And then you hear the serpent being called in the background, and it's like, man, everything is just hitting the fan right now. Something is happening. He's in a lot of trouble medically. It's like, man, this is like a heavy moment.
And as somebody mentioned, Kratos can do a lot, but he can't run when he's carrying Atreus. He's hauling logs the size of Utah over his head.
He doesn't want to drop him.
He can't
run when he's carrying enchanted pigs either. Okay? You just can't run during those times.
But Brian, I think that's a great point, because the no-cut camera is interesting. It creates several weird situations. One of them is that long elevator ride, right? Where it's like it could have just jump cut directly into the cabin, and that's what most games would do. And then the other ride, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I love that moment of because of the no-cut camera, you're forced to just watch Kratos be nervous, awkwardly riding an elevator, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And it really let it sink in. It was so great.
And I love the when he was kicking down Freya's door, woman, I need your help. And just
I'm
and
still
she's
a
like,
god.
I'm still a god, all
it's so
sarcastic, it conveys that moment of when something is really bad in your life, and you're trying to get somebody's help, and they don't understand the magnitude of what's going on, and they joke about it, and you're like, I'm not in the mood for this joke right now. I just need you to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So real quick, was his illness a product of him not knowing he was a god?
That's what they set up, and I was wondering if they're going to explain it more, but it seemed like the easy explanation was his mortal soul was in conflict because his god part of him was wanting to go into rage mode.
And that rage mode
didn't
was
think about it too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. They don't really need to explain it. He was sick, now he's better, that's enough. But I was kind of interested in it seemed weird that his sickness was a product of him just not being conscious of being a god.
It was a little bizarre. Originally I thought he got injured in that fight or something.
Yeah.
But,
I
that's
guess,
not what happened.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I guess just for tying into the idea that Kratos and how much he likes to keep secrets is literally killing his kid. That works thematically.
They're really weighing heavy on the whole story of does he know he's a god and he's going to find out this? And I guess that just lends into the impact of that, I guess.
Yeah.
And then opening up to your kid ultimately is what helped him,
right.
Thematically, I like it, but it was a little odd if you overthink it.
Also, it's a little odd. Alfreya's I need that heart from hell. Okay, that's fine. But then I liked earlier when she was curing Mimir, she's like, I haven't done this kind of magic in a long time. I don't know if I can. Then it's okay, I put 4 maggots in his mouth and then dunked his head underwater, and now suddenly he's alive again.
It's the old magic.
It's like riding a bike, dude.
That's right.
I mean, we already talked about the elevator ride, but I also really love the long boat ride back to his house from Freya's, when Athena shows up and he's just brooding on oh god.
Yeah, and it's just the way, they want to change the environment to match Kratos' mood a little bit. But I'm a little torn on how over the top the environment is at that point, because the world is going to hell. It is chaos out there along that long Willy Wonka in the tunnel boat ride.
That was about the point of the game where I'd stopped fighting the fact that this is very more of a movie than a lot of other games I've played in a lot of ways, and I just started enjoying it rather than trying to push back against it, and it worked for me. I was like, okay, yeah, you know what, this makes complete sense. This is very dark, and things are getting crazy, and I'm into it. Let's do it.
So that whole sequence, the second that she was like, you're gonna need a new weapon, man, and it should probably have some fire on it. I was like, oh shit, yes, no way. I did not think this was gonna happen. And then he says, well, I have to go home. And there was a brief moment where I was like, we're going back to Greece? How are we going to do that with us?
You're not the only one.
It's
You're
like,
not the
how do
only
we do
one.
that with a single camera cut? And then
Yeah.
I was very quickly like, oh, no, he means go back to his house. Oh,
Right.
that's the Blades of Chaos are going to be there. That is so awesome. I was so excited for
Yeah,
that.
when he was like, I have to go home and like, what was it, like uncover a relic from my past that I swore to leave behind, and I was like, oh my god, because like I love that.
I
in
approached it
first
from the
game.
opposite perspective because I've never associated those weapons with good combat. So I was like, oh no, they're gonna force you to use these things. But I came away super surprised by it. I think they add a lot. They round out that combat really, really well.
To take a little bit of a step back, I have always loved the Blades of Chaos. Like I know you guys were kind of down on the combat a little bit of the original God of Wars, but for me, they're seriously one of my favorite video game weapons, and I'm not really like a video game weapon guy. Like I don't really like have favorites, but the sweeping arc of the Blades of Chaos, I've always loved that in like an action that's why God of War is honestly some of my favorite like character action personally. I know people are going to tell me that I should go play Bayonetta or whatever, but I really love the sweeping motion of the Blades of Chaos. And when they first were showing this God of War and the Blades of Chaos were going to be in the game, it made me disappointed because I was like, I really want a weapon where I can spin around and sweep, and I love the sort of like how they kind of become hook shots sometimes.
Dude, the scorpion
hooks.
Get over here thing.
Yeah,
amazing.
And it, like
the shield
both,
and switching to the axe.
both in combat and even in cutscenes, the ability that he like the way he uses them to climb and stuff like that. I adore that, and I pretty quickly fell in love with the axe, so I wasn't too heartbroken when the Cades of Blast were removed. But to get them back and to have the combat really feel like the original God of Wars too, it's even the same combos to a certain degree where you're doing like big sweeping motions and then slamming down.
Yeah.
I was in heaven. I was so happy that those ended up in the game.
For sure. And it's just crazy to think that Ascension, what was it, 5 years ago? But it haven't been gone for that long, but just withholding it for players suddenly for like one half of one God of War game is all they've been missing, and suddenly it's like the second coming of Christ. It's like they're back. It feels like it's been 30 years.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Like it hasn't been that long since I swung the Blades of Chaos.
And I'm with you on that. Like I said in the first episode, I didn't play the original God of War games aside from like the first half of the first game, but that was always my favorite part of the game was the Blades of Chaos and like the combat that they allowed and that sweeping motion that you're talking about. So I was so happy when they came back, even though I love the axe.
Yeah, I was really happy with that scene that we're still talking about. Like not only did you have the story weight of like, holy crap, we're getting this, but the power trip they put you on immediately after with the gameplay reinforcement of these things kick ass and you can kill hundreds of guys with them.
Yeah, you're a monster, but it's fun.
And I loved that moment where she was like, you're always going to be a monster, and he just like walks right through her and goes out and tears all those guys apart.
This is not your monster, right?
Yeah, not your monster.
I'm some kind of monster, but not your monster. Cody from Gresham, Oregon says, I had no hopes or expectations of ever seeing the Blades of Chaos again. Boy, I even caught myself thinking that they probably wouldn't work in this game because of the close over-shoulder camera clashing with the wide-sweeping Beyblade style combat using the older games. I was wrong.
Like we're on the same page.
I was wrong, boy. This game has diverted all of my preemptive disappointments with great surprises, Blades of Chaos being my favorite jaw-dropper of them all. Tyler Oldfield says, the moment they mentioned that Kratos' Leviathan axe won't work in Helheim, which by the way is a little silly, but whatever, but that he would, and also you get to Helheim.
Because the frost weapon.
I understand that, but like within 3 minutes of Helheim, you encounter enemies that the Blades of Chaos
they want you to do the hot swap for gameplay.
I understand that. But anyways, okay, so Tyler says, first time they mentioned that the axe won't work in Helheim, that he needed another weapon, the camera pans down to Kratos' wrist. I literally got chills and softly whispered, yes!
Same here.
Excitement.
Same for Athena showing up on the boat too.
Seeing Athena appear on the boat and in the cabin was such a cool fan service.
You did. Those Kyle's your email.
Who've been with the franchise since the beginning. Remember, although she died, her spirit is still out there somewhere.
Well, she's always
giving you the finger.
She's always communicated with Kratos like telepathically, so she's always kind of just been a spirit that's there. It's very rare that Kratos is actually in the same place as Athena.
Where did they leave off? Because he seems very frustrated with her, but does he hate her as much as the gods? What's their relationship?
She was the messenger for the gods, and she was sympathetic to him, and she did help him as much as she could without angering Zeus.
Okay.
So it is as far as like the pantheon of Greek gods go, he probably gets along with her the most. I think they might even be brother and sister. I could be wrong about that.
Sure, that makes sense, right?
I could be totally wrong about that. But he still has plenty of reason to be mad at her.
Okay.
And her death at his hands was, again, like kind of similar to his family. It wasn't really his fault. She was trying to stop him from doing something, and she got in the way.
The reveal of her was so good, too, where I forget if you hear her voice or Kratos just says, like, Athena, come out and play, or whatever.
The bottle's on the hands.
That's what happened.
the third weapon in the game, bottles on the hands. No, but then the camera is just whipping around the boat. And what I loved is it's like, Athena, come on out. And the camera goes behind Kratos and it's like, okay, she's going to be there, but she's not. It takes like one more time that it's potentially hidden before she pops out. Like that timing was so cool.
It's like Steven Spielberg.
That's right. Yeah. And then he had the Spielberg face with the glowy thing in his face.
And she just sits there, right? She doesn't say anything, does she? I don't remember.
She just sits there, I think.
I think she talks.
I don't think she says anything on the boat, but she does talk when you're in his house.
Right, right.
She says very little, which is smart. Like she's just a presence. She's just there as a reminder of his history, you know?
Absolute Decide says, the big moment for me was the long, quiet boat ride back to Kratos' home to retrieve his chains. I cried. Manly tears, of course. His dead wife didn't get me. His sick kid didn't really bother me. But returning to his house to physically and metaphorically dig up his past hit a nerve. It's also basically John Wick. But spending the entire game
that as well.
up to that point trying to hide who he was, being a normal, humble person and a good father, then being forced to confront his sociopathic nature and violent tendencies. Not sure if it's a good thing to say. I identified with that, but it was a gut punch. Once the chains came out, it was sublime. I didn't think I had nostalgia for old school Kratos and was enjoying the axe combat. But seeing those chains swinging again and having an entire new moveset that far into the game was ballsy. Absolutely. Ian Miller says, I thought it was an amazing moment. And Kratos had to go back and retrieve the Blades of Chaos. The entire sequence nailed it, especially when the score changed to the Grecian chanting. Which is subtle. And I know we asked him in the rapid fire, the director, Cory Barlog, about whether the original theme would ever play. I'm amazed they didn't go for that ultimate gut punch of having that theme play in that moment. Like that would
I'm glad they didn't.
I like the subtlety of just like a hint of Greek music.
Like you don't need to bash our heads with it. Like we know what this franchise came from.
I guess so. The Zerbs writes in, your best friend Dan.
Is it my best friend?
You bet. The Zerbs is here. He says, "Holy hell! You actually get the Blades of Chaos." The part was absolutely insane. The Blades of Chaos. I like how everyone just refers to them as blades throughout the game. It's like, how would they know what those two weird swingy knives are called? But also, I love that Brock and Cinder are like super into them.
I like Brock rushes over to you like, whoa, what are those?
One day you're gonna tell me who made those things.
Yeah. No. Anyways, Zerb says the entire time I was thinking, okay, this is only for a little bit, and then they'll take them away, though, right? Only to look at my skills and see an entire tree dedicated to them? What a surprise that makes excitement, anticipation, and nostalgia very well. Kudos to Barlog and the team for keeping that a secret.
Yeah.
It is true. Like, literally, when I was talking to the lead combat designer, and he was talking about the axe on that cover story trip, I was like, okay, so how are you framing the axe? It's the only weapon. It's the main weapon. It's like the centerfold weapon. What's the terminology here? That's not a thing.
The Norse porn.
Is it the Norse porn weapon? And as I was literally asking him just like about this axe and how it worked, the PR person literally gave me a massage from behind to be like, back off, dude, back off. Yeah. Just one of those like, okay, there's clearly something else going on with the weapons here.
And I mean, I love the way they also fit like into his new approach. Like if you look at like his approach in the Norse mythology section of the game, which I mean is the entire game at this point, but
the game.
Like his approach in this world is to be more methodical and more choosy about his who he's killing and who he's tearing through, and that's the axe only allows for one attack or one target at a time, whereas the Blades of Chaos, when his younger and more rampage laden days, they kind of allow him to sweep through multiple enemies at a time. So it's great to like kind of see how he's struggling with both sides of his
the new and
past.
the old.
The new and the old kind of coming out.
I don't want to nitpick or anything, but you can get AoE attacks with the axe.
Yeah, they're much bigger with the.
You have to be more methodical.
A lot easier. You can just mash the R1 button and get AoE stuff going.
Yeah, and you can do the runic attacks if you really want to get down.
We know, Cyril, that you're the best at this game.
You got to juggle the guys, you know.
Honestly,
it's not. You press R2.
I know.
If you're just listening to the audio version, the picture-in-picture right now is all Cyril's gameplay, which he captured because he's a very generous soul. I appreciate that because I didn't want to embarrass myself by having my gameplay in the corner. And so if you're only listening to the audio version, the video, it's crazy.
I'm going to check it out. All right.
Wow.
Where is that? Can I point to it? Whoa.
You actually one-hit Baldur.
You should just move it to wherever we're pointing at any given moment. I'm sure it's way easier.
Daniel Fulton says, I was curious what you thought about the development of the combat system from the beginning of the game to the end. Did your opinion change? AKA, are you still throwing your axe every time? Also, have any of you been able to take down a Valkyrie yet?
Who wants to throw an axe when you can swing those chains around?
The axe is fine. I use it every once in a while, but once I got like, especially the AoE focus stuff with R1 on the chains.
I was so hard-headed about it. I would find an enemy that's like, Dan, you really need to switch to the axe to hurt that. And I'm like, nope, I don't care. I'm just going to hit this thing 100 more times.
I really like the contrast between the two. Like I didn't mind switching between them. And on the Valkyrie point, I've only taken down one of them.
I haven't taken any of them. Do they have specific character designs?
They're all similar, but
Okay.
like they all have different like attacks.
Gotcha.
Because at first it was sort of the thing that they tell you, yeah, you should go do the, you should gear up for the Valkyries, and that's basically what I did. And after, like I've killed all of them, but like it does feel like the last one is sort of like each one of them has like a specific set of 1 or 2 attacks.
There's a siren if you can hear it.
Silent Hill.
Wait
has
a minute.
come.
Wait a minute, Kyle. It's
It's
not
not
Wednesday.
Tim
Shut up, Tim
Schafer
Schafer.
But yeah, like she has basically all of the other all of
Okay.
the other Valkyries attacks. But I think they're probably my favorite fights in the game, even if they towards the end they do kind of start feeling a little repeated. Where like, oh, here's the move where she'll do like a swing and then come at you, and then there's one where she jumps into the air, yells Valhalla, and she'll come come crashing down.
That's sweet.
And so like later ones they iterate on that. So like the first couple that you fight, they'll do it once, and then later on they'll do it like 3 times in succession.
And isn't the last Valkyrie like the ultimate challenge of the game?
Yeah, she's like the hardest one because I like.
Well, not for cereal.
Well, no, she's still the hardest. Like she is by far the hardest fight in the game. But I also really like her intro because like the idea is you're getting all their helmets, all of the Valkyries' helmets, because they're not supposed to be in physical form, so you're freeing them.
Okay.
And so you go around to the different parts of the world, and once you put all their helmets in, this rift opens up. And like you just go, all right, well now you need to free the last one. And as soon as you put your hand in the rift, she just comes at you and like grabs your head and like crashes you along the ground. And it's just
Rude.
like it's a really cool because all the other ones are just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
And so you can just run up to them and start attacking them. But this one is like she just comes out of nowhere, which is it's a pretty cool surprise.
I'm excited to go after those.
I do like that he takes the helmet and he just like puts it in his pocket.
Yeah, he's like, where are you putting that?
Boink. It'd be kind of cool if they had it like kind of on the back alongside Mimir's head.
He just had a belt full of helmets.
Yeah.
Well, there is. I don't know where it happens exactly, but there is a quote from Sindri where he will say, "Where are you even carrying all this stuff?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
delivering
forgot about
things?
that.
Oh, that's fun.
And I also I do like the combat. Like early on, I was sort of just mashing the axe throw button, but I think later on, as they sort of introduce characters who will just block that or dodge that, I think that stuff is really cool. And then being able to switch between the two and like straight up just having multiple of those special moves, I think like allows you to, okay, I'm going to use this 2 special moves. Now I'm out and I'm going to switch to my axe, not because necessarily because I need it for this enemy, but because I think it works better. And like certain enemies are more susceptible to frost, things like that. I think the combat does sort of get to where after the end of the game, you unlock these trials and you unlock sort of like a roguelike sort of like
Oh, really?
Niflheim.
realm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically like you go into this and you're trying to collect mist, but if you die, you don't get any of the mist. And you need that to upgrade some of the best stuff in the game.
Yeah.
So like I enjoyed the combat enough to where I spent like, a couple hours just running those sort of loops just to get more time with the combat.
Jake from Maine writes in, he had a tough time with the Valkyrie as well, but he loved the fights. He thinks they're awesome. Jared Buffington says, the game reminds me a lot of Dark Sector. Like the combat of like
The
throwing.
very first
and then-
announced PlayStation 3 game.
There we
That's
go.
like the only thing anyone ever brings up about that game.
Yeah,
not the
that's
core
because it's
gameplay.
not that great of a game.
Also, it
I'm
turns
sorry I
out
said it.
it is connected to, oh my god, Warframe, which I did not realize.
What?
Really?
How?
Dark Sector?
How?
Am I
Explain.
Dark
It
Void?
it looks
No.
kind of the
I
same.
think it's Dark Sector.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah, like it started out as like that was Warframe. It was from that team.
Really?
And that was the original pitch. And then they're like, know what? That was too watered down from the publisher. Now we're going to make it for real. Let's
Well,
make
yeah,
it a real
'cause-
Warframe.
Not to go on a weird tangent, but when that game was announced, it was super science fiction. And
Yeah.
then they saw Gears of War, and they're like, "Oh, we should do something like that." And
Let's
then they
do
changed
it.
That's mind blowing to me.
That's
Actually.
crazy. Okay, Clay says, were you guys overwhelmed with unnecessary combat options in the late game, or did you feel like you finally opened up the true potential of the combat by the end of the game?
I don't know that I don't know that I ever used all of the options. I just found the ones that I liked best because I know my brother and I were actually talking about it, and we went for like completely different styles of play. Like he never really threw the axe at all and never found it too useful. But like there's a late game thing where you can like I think actually one of the Valkyries drops it. It makes your axe throw way more powerful.
Oh, really?
So you can equip that, and he went for like I think he went for like just runic and cooldowns, so using more of the magic, and I went more for the just pure defense.
Yeah, I
and
went
trying
like,
to
getting my power
Yeah.
up was like that was
right.
above everything.
And then
else, yeah.
like I used the animal spirits more of just like
Atreus's,
yeah, and I ended up with the squirrel one, which is actually kind of funny because I feel like I was all about just like healing as much as possible, and so like the one of the like the squirrel basically runs around and gets an item for you. And
Tommy
you can-
from Chicago writes in about the squirrel. He says, on hard mode, there's only one Atreus summon that matters, and that is the squirrel Pokemon,
Yeah.
Rataskaskor. I don't know if everyone unlocked this one, but it allows you to dig up 3 health or rage potions on the spot.
That's
Maybe
amazing.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I
not
gotta
as
go get
useful
that.
on normal, but on hard mode, it's essential.
Yeah,
he
I
says.
think
Wow.
that's the reason I use it is because you can upgrade it to give you 3 things, so you
Yeah.
basically have free rage basically whenever that thing is on cooldown.
That seems
And
insanely powerful.
And I think he's talkative, so he'll be like if you don't really need him, he's like, you called me out for this? Like, what are you doing?
Really?
Yeah.
What?
So,
I want this guy.
So I mean, he'll still give you those power ups, but they don't last forever. So it's like he'll make fun of you. It's like you're not hurt, dude. Like, what are you doing?
Weird.
I barely ever use the animal spirit things.
Like they're super useful.
They're crazy good. Like
But along those same lines, I did equip Atreus with the outfit that allows him to find health and like throw it your way.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
that too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
I think
that's pretty good. But, like,
Travis E writes in and says, "Hello, I'm loving this God of War. Throughout the first half, I found myself spending my skill points on Atreus before Kratos.
I did
I'm
too.
playing on easy. Don't at me. So the combat was good enough without needing a ton of upgrades. And he's wondering if anybody else like focused on Atreus.
I maxed
Oh,
Max
100%.
Atreus, Max Atreus armor. He
he's-
does so much work.
I think they really want you to do that though, because most of his upgrades are actually like super cheap, and so I think they early on want you to recognize the value of Atreus.
They're
and-
so good because like you look at the value of your thing, you're like, okay, when I'm finishing off a combo, I can do more damage.
They're very situational.
It's like, okay, Atreus is just like kill stuff.
Yeah, Atreus is all purpose. All of his upgrade trees is like, all right, this is going to be useful in almost every combat situation. Whereas yours is like, oh, well, if there's like a big group of Draugrs, I guess that'll help.
Yeah. Matt Davies from Australia, Northern Territory. That's gonna
Northern Territory.
It says, I find that because the player view is so zoomed in into the combat, you see more gory details closely. It gives the game a somewhat more intense and horrifying vibe. Kratos seems to break more necks and you hear the cracks and snaps more clearly due to being so close to the action. I find this gives more importance to each kill.
Well, I brought that up in the first, not the close zoomed in camera, but like the sound design of the combat gives it so much more like gruesomeness.
You gotta rip a Wolvar in half
Yeah,
to really
that's
get
my favorite one is where he grabs the wolf by the mouth and like heals him in half.
He just does like the King Kong to the V-Rex thing.
While we're talking about the finishers, the only one that really drove me crazy is the one where like you grab him and then run with him for like 20 meters.
You
and
can
then,
throw him whenever though.
Because I just was running up against like an invisible wall on the edge of a cliff for like 3 seconds.
I
I
think
think
if
it's
you
really
match-
taking me out of it.
I think there's a button you can press to just throw them immediately.
Oh, okay.
That actually comes in handy because there's one challenge in the fire area where the enemies recover super quickly, and so you can't kill those guys normally. You have to initiate that animation and just throw them off a cliff.
Yeah, but like the weirdness that it doesn't automatically throw if you're up against the cliff.
Like
drove
you're
me
running up
insane.
against the wall, like holding him. Yeah,
I'm just like running like, all right, is he going to throw it? All right, there he
but
goes.
I'm pretty sure you can press a button to just throw them as soon as you grab them.
I don't like gore. And so I found myself not using those finishing moves. Like, I don't want to watch him rip out this troll's eye or whatever the hell's going on. Like, I just don't want to see it. I'll just keep throwing my axe from it.
So you decided to play God of War. You don't like gore.
Well, that's why I didn't play the old ones. Like, honestly, I've just never been a fan.
I
of
thought
that
they were
type of
really
thing.
cool. There just wasn't just like the enemy variety though. Maybe maybe because lose a little more variety.
I wish there were a couple for each enemy type.
just putting my axe in the troll's mouth over and over.
Or
and
like the
over.
one where you grab them by the hands and you step on their head. Like that one felt like at some point, if they're low enough health, I'll just kill them.
It always felt super satisfying to see him take like the troll's like wooden stake thing that they were using against you and slam it down on their head to finish them.
Yeah, it was
I
great,
also-
but again, it was just the same. It felt like the same troll.
I
every
agree.
time.
There are
wish there were
certain
more finishing
times
moves.
when the biggest cop in this game is the Elfheim Elite, the one who shoots like these little balls of darkness or whatever. Like that is harder than most bosses in that game. Just anytime he's in the field with like multiple enemies, it's just the most grueling shit. So like the one time I got a stun kill on him, it was the most satisfying moment in that game. Just like, fuck you, dude. I hate you so much.
Surreal Unchained.
Yeah, holy cow, my god. I on the sound design thing, you mentioned it real quick, Shay. Something I love in this game, maybe it's overly simple, I don't know what it is, but the sound of the light bridges running across that, where it's just like the simple like walking on metal sound or something. It has such a cool, subtle vibe to it. I love it. Just love it. Oh my gosh, we have
there's
questions
so many
about
more.
gameplay. Holy cow,
my
Dan.
God.
Andrew Vala says, hey, personally,
Andrew Valhalla.
that we made the joke last time. Says, hey everybody, I'm starving for hack silver and drowning in XP. In order to take on the Valkyries, the Rifts, and Niflheim, I need better armor, and I just can't get nearly enough currency. Collecting Mist Echoes takes forever and it isn't well explained. I avoided the Valkyrie fight until I had a leveled up armor, and I felt like it took about twice as long as it should have to unlock all the chests and upgrade my equipment. I felt like they could have adjusted the cost or pickup rates in this area.
Yeah, I think that game's economy is a little skewed because like you can spend more XP by upgrading all of your like animal. There's stuff that I didn't know you could upgrade with XP, but yeah, you definitely get way more XP than you need to like at some point. Oh, I have the level 4 of the Blades of Chaos. I'll just go and unlock every tree. I'm making no choices about how I want to improve my character. And I think sort of some of the crafting stuff I don't like. It just seems like super grindy of just, hey, you're gonna need to go into this area multiple times. But for what it's worth, you can beat the Valkyries without. I think I was level 7.5 basically, so you don't need to get everything, but you see a lot of those requirements and you're just like, that's just gonna take way too long to.
Yeah,
I think I might have been like 5.5 when I took down the only one I've done.
Yeah, so they're not like impossibly like you're not gonna have to unlock everything, but I think to speak more to the economy, I think. Kyle, you said you went around post game and did some of the side quests, right? Like,
yeah.
I feel like I like those stories. I think they're interesting, but I feel like you don't get really that much out of doing most of them because it feels like the rewards are sort of below your where you want to be by the end of the game. So I feel, and also like they make it very difficult in the game to go around and do those side quests because the fast travel in that game sucks until you beat the game basically.
Right.
So you either do all of that exploration manually and because there is sort of like this Metroidvania aspect of like, oh, I have the Blades of Chaos. There's several chests that I noticed I could break, with the Blades of Chaos.
Fire, yeah.
Right.
Oh, speaking of chess, Evan says, are you a fan of the toon puzzles to open chess? I feel like they kill the pacing of the game, and I started enjoying it a lot more when I stopped focusing on them. What are toon puzzles?
I skipped a few of them.
Oh, I guess I did one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. I always went after those. I just like puzzles though.
It felt super video gamey, but like
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. One simple thing, says Quentin. Kudos to Santa Monica for not adding some sort of Spartan vision to the game, i.e. modern third-person action game after Arkham Asylum. It forces players to do things the old-fashioned way, use our eyes and brains.
Well, I mean, I also feel like I think the designed around it, there's not a lot of like hidden elements in the environment. Like the only time you ever really need to look around the world is for those puzzles, and the whole point is that you don't know where they are. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, Chris writes in and says, "Shut up, Serial." No, he says, "Long-time lurker, first-time writer. I have a few major complaints with this game, but a big one for me, which I don't think has been addressed, is this." I really don't understand why games like this don't give you the opportunity to change the color and size of the cursor. God of War is one of the worst offenders I've played. The white cursor so often gets lost against a white or light-colored background, making enemy encounters tough and unnecessarily frustrating. Before it lands,
the reticle. Is that what he's talking
maybe
about?
that's what he means.
Like
Before it lands on an enemy object, the cursor is an almost invisible tiny white dot. Is it just me? Customizing cursors used to be more common in games, didn't it?
Yeah, I did have that problem every once in a while, but I mean, it wasn't a big complaint as he's levying.
I'm
not doing a lot of specific throwing in combat. I'm usually just chucking. Like I'm not aiming for headshots.
I'm completely with you. I understand like the white dot thing. It is surprisingly subtle, and
especially
like
in a game that's early on about snow, basically. Like there's a lot.
Yeah,
of
it's true, and like it got me in hell when I was on the boat. Like I didn't know I could interact with that object for a long time at the back of the boat because that dot was so
freaking
tiny.
boat.
Yeah.
Freaking boat.
I will also like another issue that he reminded me of was the auto aim is super kind of harsh just because sometimes I'll try to lock on an enemy and say no, I meant the other one.
Yeah,
and you have to pull for a while to get yourself off of it, and like switching targets. The Dark Souls-esque sort of like locking onto an opponent.
How dare you compare these two? Dantak's gonna flip this table like it's a temple.
Sorry, the Zelda style lock on.
Use your legs.
Sometimes it feels
targeting.
I ended up not using that. I would rather use the manual camera over locking on to like most of the enemies because like switching back and forth felt like sometimes you could do it on accident, and in the Valkyrie fight specifically, it felt like they were moving so fast at times that there was no point in using the lock-on.
Ian Levesque says at the start when Kratos tells the boy, get your things. After the Baldur fight, you can see him look at the package that you find out has the Blades of Chaos in it. That was a real quick random gameplay.
That's cool.
Yep.
There's some other really insane foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to get to all of it. People are very smart. Brett Williams from Martinsville, Indiana says, one minor detail I appreciate is that Kratos slows down while paddling when he's in colder water due to the increased density of the water, is what Brett says.
I certainly didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that.
I think that's just to like help navigate around the ice or something. But
could be. I didn't
I don't know.
That's true. That's kind of cool.
Also, Noah wants to know, how far away can you summon your axe from? Is there a limit? Did anybody test this? Like, can you drop it right before the final boss, walk all the way back to the beginning of the game, and pull it back to you? Like that one scene in Thor Ragnarok?
I'm very excited for the SGDQ run where it's no axe, and then at the end of the run, they retrieve it in Jotunheim all the way from the beginning of the game.
I am interested in that, but I'm guessing there's a cap on how long it comes back.
I mean, you need it for puzzles and stuff, but I'm curious with the free roaming thing. I don't know.
I did often. I kind of became a habit, like kind of like jumping through Mega Man boss doors, sort of. Where whenever I would fast travel, I don't know what that area is called.
The realm between realms?
Well, it's just like a branch of the Yggdrasil, I think.
Which, by the way, you can, like, the first time you go in there, you can jump off that cliff and you just get a game over. That's super funny and weird.
Yeah.
But
foreshadowing.
What I would do is I'll throw the axe before I leave, and then just like, can I leave this in here? But the second you hit the like exit button, Kratos puts up his.
I think he also does that when you like are about to embark. So I think if you leave it on an island and you're like ready to set sail, I think you'll.
Oh, he just automatically grabs it.
I think so. I'm
Did
not
you
sure
guys? Were you also impressed? Maybe it's one of those things that seems magical to me, but there's no other way to do it. But I think it's when you're going back to Freya's place after you get Mimir to like revive him. And that was the first time I used fast travel and saw that world.
Same, yeah, I think so.
I think this is the first time anybody uses it.
Is that right?
I think it puts you in there, yeah.
Okay, so you don't have a choice.
I don't think so.
It's one of those things where I was amazed by like all this dialogue. I felt like I was like freely exploring and just doing this my own way, but all the dialogue fit my path exactly, which I was shocked by.
Well, I
think that's the first time you actually get to use the system.
I think that door will literally appear when the conversation is done. Like there were times when like nothing happened, like no one talked or anything, the door appeared right away. Yeah. But if Mimir was doing a lot of talking, I felt like I got to walk further.
Yeah, there was one where I was running forever. I'm like, am I going the wrong way?
Yeah.
You guys like moments?
Love them. We love them.
Dan, are you living in them?
I am right now.
Hell yeah. David Single from Brisbane, Australia says, one of my favorite little moments from the game would have to be the drink Kratos and Atreus share in the elevator. I think it's Tyr's Temple that from Kratos was wonderfully unexpected, and its playfulness here is far more touching than the awkward and clumsy characterization of the first half. Where he would hover a hand near Atreus' back, looking to offer comfort, but not sure how. That was a sweet moment where he says, like, to the journey's end or whatever.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, very, very sweet moment. Ashley writes in and says, another moment I really enjoyed is after you get the Black Rune, you're forced to fight two trolls, one fire, one ice. It really forces you to manage how and when you use your axe and blades for the first time.
And that was a fight that I was really against. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep picking at him with the blades. And I really committed to it.
I liked that fight a lot. Yeah, and I liked the mechanic of having to switch back and forth.
Yeah, and also it was beautiful foreshadowing for the final fight with Baldur. I'd imagine, where I love that idea of just switching back and forth. Okay, you guys want to get to that beast?
Let's get into some stuff here.
Let's get into some stuff. Oh, real quick, Matt Davies from Australia really loves the Magni and Modi.
Yeah, a lot of Aussies.
Yeah, we have a huge Australian audience. It's lovely. What did you guys think of Magni and Modi?
I thought that they were uninteresting in the game, but they're really cool characters in the mythology. And I liked the way in the fight. I really liked that was the first time in the fight where you had to like do they're coming at you and you can't see.
Oh yeah,
get your shield up. Right. As far as cinematic gameplay went,
I think it's a really good fight with like kind of uninteresting characters.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
it's tough. All Norse guys are just big, brutish Swedish men, right? Like I get it, but
I loved how they got under Atreus' skin so much by mentioning his mother. Like, oh my god, Atreus! Like, I'll kill you, you bastard!
Yeah.
You didn't even know her. You're just making this up.
Yeah, and just the moment where they like his hammer on his shield, and then like you and Atreus are basically both watching out for them. I thought that was that is a very cool, subtle like father-son kind of gameplay moment.
So I guess I liked him, but when you have the entire pantheon of Norse mythology to draw from, they seemed like such minor notes. And that's because we didn't get to see Odin or Thor or any of the other great, I guess they're being saved for another game.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I like do more than guess, but
yeah. Well, we know now, right? But I'm sure that's a question later.
I did find them more interesting as Mimir kind of told me more about them after the fact.
Right.
Like we found out why one was so jealous of the other and stuff like that. But
and I like that Mimir said Kyle was super wrong in that first game club. That's
big time.
That's right, Kyle.
I was wrong a lot.
That's all right.
It's okay to be wrong.
It's all right. Everyone does it. Let's go chronologically a little bit here if you guys are down for it. Chris Bartlett says, I like God of War as a whole, but Atreus' character shifts in the second half of the game seem too abrupt. After learning he's a god, he quickly becomes a narcissistic jerk, and then after getting pulled into Helheim and a small speech from his father, he's back to the same old plucky Atreus. The game even goes so far as to show you a scene from no more than an hour or two where Atreus kills Magni, and he says, that couldn't have been me, or something to that effect, even though it literally just happened. Does anyone else feel like the whole character arc is really underdeveloped?
I feel like a child learning he's an actual god would invoke exactly that same kind of sentiment.
And especially because it's using it as a way to connect to his dad. Like, that's the part where it's like, okay, that makes sense. That like he's leaning into this so hard.
The shift isn't sort of my problem. It feels like it fluctuates so wildly. Of like, all of a sudden, now I'm like a complete dick. And there's no, like, they don't necessarily do a great job of sort of making it seem like it feels like he's shifting modes versus just oh, I found out, like, there's no sort of like in between moments between him being kind of bratty and him being narcissistic and then kind of him fading back. Like, there's the one moment where he does shoot Kratos, and then kind of after that he seems to taper off a little bit after that fight, like at the top of the mountain with the dragon.
Right.
But like before that, it just feels like, well, we need to make this a story beat, and like that's fine. But I feel like they do it a little bit too clumsily.
Well, I think that was the moment that he learned that he was a god, and he's like, oh, well, then my dad is a god as well. And he realizes that the reason that his dad is able to do all these things, because, you know, he's remarking all the time, like, oh, you've always been really strong.
Yeah.
And, oh, you've killed people before? Like, there's all these, like, moments where it's like this.
How do you kill a god? I like when he asked that. And it's like, yeah, I'm still a little confused about that. But okay.
Yeah, but he, like, has this moment where he's like, oh, maybe I can do these things too, and I can be a cocky mother, whatever. But,
right.
See, I interpret that moment where he said, that couldn't have been me. Mm-hmm. That to me, I interpreted that as like he just was out of his own mind. Like.
Oh no, really?
Yeah,
no.
like not.
Like,
like
we're not going to offer you
well.
those passes here.
I mean, sure. I mean, but the fact that, like, he's right. Like the fact that he looked at that and he was like, that couldn't have been me. Because that was so absurd. That's how I interpreted it. As like, oh, he must have just like not even been in his own head at that point or something. But
I think he was just kind of horrified by like, oh, that was really me.
Yeah.
Like I took it as that.
That's my angle I'm taking too.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think of Atreus because I don't know how old he is, 9 or something. But basically throughout that
24.
little arc, he just like goes through all of puberty, becomes a hot 17-year-old with a smoking hot girlfriend. Just like he just becomes like the cockiest piece of work.
He goes through sort of all of like the kids in media tropes from beginning to end.
Yeah,
we're gonna have every possible attitude a child can have.
Right.
It makes so much sense to me. It's impossible to fathom. Like, imagine you're a kid and you're told that you're basically invincible and you can do whatever you want.
Right, but like
it seems very reasonable to me.
Him sort of becoming more cocky when he finds out he's a god is that, like, that's not my problem. My problem is the way they handle it. I think it's
the way he reverts.
Yeah, right. The shifts are a little too sudden.
Yeah. Also, I loved when he started bad-mouthing his mom a little bit. When, God, there's a line, what is it here, where Kratos tells him, truth is more important than kindness. Or someone says to him, truth is more important than kindness. I think it's after he freaks out on Brock or Sindri. I forget which one, which was also a great scene where they're like,
Sindri,
that really hurt. Like,
yeah,
what the hell?
man.
But then he says, your mother would disagree about truth being more important than kindness. And like, Kratos says, she wasn't a god. And then there's a long beat, and then Kratos picks it up. I love that, like, he remembers it. And it's like a couple minutes later even where he goes like, she was better than a god. And you will not disparage her.
Oh man, but that moment where Atreus just tears into Sindri, like, what do you say? I'm tired of little people with their little problems.
Yeah,
like, wow.
Yeah.
And then
Get
Sindri's
along
like,
with your brother.
and Sindri just got so passive aggressive for like the next 2 hours that you talk to him.
Yeah.
It was
And then he
great.
apologizes, and it's like the best, full circle plot. Just him being like, no, it's forgiven. I know.
Yeah.
But he was also kind of speaking to like the players at that point, because like I was so sick of hearing about his like beef with Brock at that point as
I
well.
love that.
Yeah.
But they just kept bringing every time you talked to him. Oh well, my brother kind of sucks. Let me tell you. And it's like, dude, like we get it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Colin Roy loves Atreus, and he brings up that point, which is interesting, where he says, not only is he one of the best kid characters in gaming, he's a perfect stand-in for your typical gamer. When we killed the dragon, my reaction was, that was cool. Only to have Atreus echo those sentiments moments later. From his, shouldn't we be moving on, to the, gee whiz, my dad is strong, to his wonderful journal writing, he far too scarily mirrors my thoughts while playing.
He does that during the trials too, because every time you fail a trial, he's like, well, can we do this, or do we need better gear? That's literally
really?
one of his lines.
I love too when you go back and you're climbing through the mountain and you're in that room with like the huge elevator thingy that took a while to set up.
Yeah.
Like I had that moment and it was scary. I had Atreus in the exact same moment. He goes, "Oh right, this room." Like, and that was exactly what was going on in my brain. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, and his every time like you finished the main like mission of an area, it's like, oh, we can go back now, or maybe we should explore some more.
Well, I love it
every single time,
and they're even more direct than that. It's one of my. It's so small, but I love it. It was just this tiny little moment where he did say that, where he's like, "Oh, maybe we could go out and take care of some side quest type of thing, go explore the world. What do you want to do?" And the Kratos goes, "I'll show you."
Yeah.
And then you're sitting in the boat, and it's like, "You tell me, player."
And
like,
right when you get the chisel, he's like, "Oh, we got that chisel. We can probably access more areas now."
with
It's
that
like,
weird
God.
hand movement,
Yeah.
chiseling,
It's like for a little close to fourth wall
vibrating.
breaking.
By the way, you can turn that
Vibrating.
off if you want.
the minigame.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't. I thought it was fine. But,
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it didn't bother me too much.
but I thought it was cool that you could turn it off if you want.
Yeah. Dylan Northrup says, after Atreus finds out his true lineage, he becomes the worst teenager ever. Imagine a whiny, entitled little snot who goes around saying, I can do whatever I want because you're all people and I'm a god. I don't need to imagine it because I saw that on the screen. I'm disappointed it took so long for Kratos to sort Atreus out. As a father myself, I would have stopped that the first time my kid tried to pull that crap on me.
He was just a better Anakin Skywalker.
Then he might shoot you in the chest with a lightning arrow, though, so, you got to be careful.
It is amazing to think of. I would love more of an inner monologue in that point for Kratos, because I'm sure he's just like, I want to snap this afro's neck. He's like, this dude's gotta go.
I'm gonna snap someone's neck by the end of this game.
It's time to kill another god.
Jimmy,
one less god in the world.
Jimmy Bedell says, I was getting seriously annoyed with Atreus when he found out he was a god and started acting like a little d-bag, but I loved how he was not listening to you when you wanted him to shoot the arrows and would change which one on a whim he was using, the light or electric.
Oh, I never caught
He
that.
became, very petulant and did not take orders.
Well, I love when he's like, whatever. Every time you told him to do it, but I didn't catch him switching. That's
I didn't catch him
really
switching,
cool
but yeah,
I don't think it switched.
the whatevers really started driving me a little crazy.
Yeah, the first one was awesome. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, I get it. Joseph D has a very similar or vague, good question.
Which is it, dude?
He has a question. He has a question. He says,
Whatever.
who do you like more, Kratos or Atreus?
Ooh.
Atreus.
Kratos.
Well, obviously,
Oh, man, that's
Kratos
tough.
right now, but since I'm assuming that Loki's going to go on a tear in the next few years, so...
That's a tough question.
There's some serious foreshadowing at the end of the game, which I'm sure
we're getting to it.
It's so hard to, because like they play off each other so well. It's like the whole I don't know which one.
Atreus is a whiny brat, and it's going to get way worse when he becomes Loki.
He was a whiny brat for like 30 minutes, I feel like.
I'm with you. I think it was worth it. But it did seem abrupt, and I wanted Kratos to freak out on him more. Like, knock it off!
He freaked out.
I wanted him to like
freaked out a little
shake him
bit.
or something. Just
Yeah, he did
no
do
more
that-
iPad. Just spank him or something.
He did do that whole thing like, you were going down this dangerous path, boy.
Right. Also, Joseph D is wondering, is Kratos the new standard for the phrase dad bod?
Definitely.
You bet, dude.
Objectively, yes.
Objectively.
So
Okay.
that's what I have to go for?
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
You gotta get
Sorry,
tone, man.
Are
Get
you
those ashes
are
on
you beach bod ready?
If you're just listening to the audio
Am I
version,
Norse
Kyle's
Adventure
like,
ready? No.
Kyle's like halfway there already. Chip Kimball says, what really blew me away in the new game was the final fight against Baldur. While his mother is begging you not to hurt him, you wind up pinning him down and prompting to beat him. Just like at the end of God of War 3 against Zeus. I genuinely did not want to be a part of that again, so I purposely stopped hitting Baldur. He heals up from his wounds, and the game literally carries on as if refusing to hit anymore is a legitimate player choice. I was genuinely enchanted with the game again. This one stupid thing in the game really made me feel like the game understood the player choice and allowed that to continue the story on my terms. I thought it was really cool. It was also short-lived as Kratos ended up breaking his neck anyway, but,
Whatever.
Here's something I really loved about that fight.
Yeah.
Is that there's a lot of Atreus interaction where you're commanding Atreus's actions and not your own when you're beating on him.
Right.
With the arrows and stuff. That was really cool.
Especially during the cutscene when he's like firing the arrows in midair as he's falling down and stuff.
And it's all coordinated to pressing the square button, which is like sort of,
right.
I like that there's just this co-op beatdown where you're pressing different buttons depending on who's attacking him.
I had the same thing with Chip, but I didn't go so far as he did, where when Freya's like, knock it off, you idiot, stop it. I was like, yeah, like I understand that I'm Atreus in the situation and she's taking the Kratos role of like, I need to be restrained, and I'm totally down for that. But I didn't think there was another way to go about it. I didn't know that you could just wait it out. That's cool, if that's true.
I mean, you end up killing him anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
but in the gameplay at least, I thought, like, I don't want to be punching him right now.
I do love the way that, I mean, this is an overall comment, but just the way they allow you to, like, they kind of trick you into controlling both characters, Like, you're like, oh, I'm Kratos and I'm just calling Atreus to do certain things. But, like, when you really think about it, you really are controlling both of those characters. Like,
You're controlling the bond between them, if you think about it.
There you go. Boom.
Boom! Nate McClellan says, the final fight with Baldur is my favorite moment. I love how it opens, with Kratos putting a hand on Baldur's chest and cautioning him on vengeance, which was a nice moment. Plus, that fight had me telling my 6-month-old daughter, this is awesome!
There you go.
It's like the little kid from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
I also felt like the only proper way to fight Baldur is with slappers only. It felt oddly weird to use my axe on him.
slappers only.
Slappers only. There it is.
There it is. Caden says, I was very surprised at just how purely entertaining the final fight with Baldur is. It's one of the most cinematic boss fights in games, specifically when Kratos and Atreus beat up on Baldur as a team, and it's so cool. You have to really mix up your weapons usage as Baldur changes from fiery to frost powers. Freya gets in the way a little bit with her constant screaming and wooden magic restraints.
She gets in the way a lot.
But her monologue at the end is one of the better bits of dialogue in the game. It's a very satisfying
Remember that you
conclusion.
can boycott using the axe. Just you'll just have to wait it out and pick at him for 1 damage a hit.
I guess so.
I love Freya's input in the fight, like just
Yeah.
just doing everything she could to just stop this from happening.
Yeah, she
including
possessed
taking
a giant.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know,
The
it's
biggest
actually,
thing she could do.
You know, I loved that fight. It is kind of weird to me though that she couldn't stop the fight with having that kind of power. It feels like she was reserved in some way.
Dude, you're Kratos, man. You're the god.
I know who you are. I know who you are.
yeah,
I mean,
Well,
she
it's one
possessed
guy
a
trying to
giant.
stop,
She
too.
wrapped you both in like roots.
Yeah.
Like she did a lot.
There was
Kratos
one.
hates roots.
There's one line.
It's well known.
Baldur, where he says, "Do you know what you have cost me?"
Yeah.
And I very much like internally had the reaction of like, "No, I don't understand why I have anything to do with this." You know, like I've just sort of gotten in the way. But
yeah.
after the fight, he goes into it because Atreus actually brought up that specific quote. He said, "Baldur said, you know, do you know what you've done to me? What is it?" And then they kind of talked about it a little bit. And in that sort of idea of like, oh. They're having the conversations that I'm having in my head and like bring them to the front. Like that was a moment for me where I was like literally was like, no, I have no idea what I did to you. Why are you fighting me? Why are you so mad at me, dude? You know?
Right. It's like I just took that to mean like, oh, maybe Odin's just really being more of a dick than you could imagine. But what do you guys think about Baldur in general when we see him in hell when he's like crying and he's like rooting on for his own spirit to like kill Freya?
You know, of all the stuff I did like about the game, which is almost everything,
Yeah.
Baldur still didn't strike me as
Except
a
for the
compelling.
first half.
Except for the first half, you wouldn't wipe your butt with.
Baldur never struck me as a compelling villain. Even after I started to like him more, when you had more interesting fights with him, you got Norse mythology here. Why pick this guy?
I liked it. I
just
liked
didn't work for
focusing
me.
on a god that I didn't know too
Yeah.
much about, and
I
I
would
loved
rather-
his design.
And also towards the end, it feels like he's sort of like what Kratos is afraid that Loki is going to become, of just like here's
100%.
this entirely petulant child. And so like I think the reason he goes for like I'm not gonna kill him, and then you know he's about to kill Freya, and then he kills him. I think that's a sort of like I am going to cut this off right now.
They even have a very similar haircut.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really wild. Atreus and Baldur. Cody from Gresham, Oregon says the most impactful moment in the whole game for me is the moment when Kratos is kneeling down and explaining to Atreus that the young god does not need to follow the destructive path of his kind, and that he can and should choose to be better. He says this as a father to his troubled son as Freya walks into the frame holding her dead child, perceived as robbed of the very same opportunity. Freya wanted everything for her son, was willing to give her life to quench this rage. However, Kratos understood what Freya could not. Baldur would find no peace and vengeance against his mother, just as Kratos did not find peace after the death of Ares, which led to yet another black hole of rage and vengeance to the subsequent deaths of an entire pantheon. Do you think Freya deserved another opportunity to protect her son? Was Kratos hypocritical in taking his life despite Freya's wishes? Did Baldur deserve an opportunity to choose to become better? Did Baldur make his choice when he attacked Freya? Was Kratos justified in killing Baldur even if it meant betraying someone who had saved his son from the brink of death?
Some part of me thinks that this has got to be some kind of a story set up that Kratos' involvement with this North Pantheon is going to lead to, you know, Fimbulwinter and Ragnarok, which has already basically happened, right?
Right.
And like, were there designs above him yet again that were sort of manipulating his path
To get him to kill Baldur?
to create Loki, kill Baldur, start Ragnarok?
Everything
all this
was
stuff.
fated. I mean,
I know, that's
they
what I'm
did one.
saying.
And I love the way that they describe Odin in the game as well. Well, I think we'll get to it later.
Like
But
I'm
just the
saying-
idea that like he is the mastermind, like he is just
Right.
like a dictator controlling all
So
this
I'm
knowledge.
saying,
or
is this
trying
yet another
to-
situation where he is a pawn in someone else's grand design?
Right. I think he would really be into that.
That's I think it's a great setup for even an angrier and more vengeful Kratos.
Yeah, one of the notes I wrote down after that fight was there's a conversation between Kratos and Atreus where he's like, I would kill myself in order for me
Right.
to live, and I adored that. Like
Yeah.
I love that Kratos.
Because like Atreus didn't understand why.
like I love that Kratos like completely understands where Freya is coming from. Like he's like, I get it. Like I understand why she's mad, and I'm gonna let her fume for a while. I really liked that a lot.
Yeah, and I like the little moment too when Mimir was like, wait, are we the baddies?
And then Mimir did say, like, he kind of hinted that, like, she's not going to really hold this against him because he was like, oh, I think give her some time. She'll forgive you.
Well,
I don't
that's
know
the
about
thing.
that, but-
Jeremy Bull says the one thing that felt weird to me was Freya's emotional turnabout at the end once you killed Baldur. It didn't feel set up enough. The only place here turning face is hinted is the bit where Mimir finds out that he's been cursed to not say what Baldur's weakness is. I get she wanted to save her son, and that's monumental for her parent, but the way she does it, the way she doesn't see any of the good in what Kratos does is bizarre. Granted, I think in the sequel, she will be an enemy for the first 2 hours, and she'll cry a lot on your shoulder and realize you were right and be your ally again. It just felt a tad too much about how much she hates Kratos and Atreus now from the history they've made together, even if it's a minor flaw in a near perfect game.
I would actually maybe not reverse a little bit of what I said about Atreus. Just like I think that emotional like snap I think works really well. Of just like I am with you all the way, but then like just the act of killing my son. It's just like I could see a complete turnaround in that sense.
Like they didn't need to tease it out
Yeah.
because she wasn't in that position until that happened. And,
Right.
so yeah, I gotta disagree with the email there. That I think I'm sorry. That's how I feel.
You go into the mat.
Hot takes on emails.
But I mean, I think she really did believe in Kratos and Atreus and liked them up until that point.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're in it. Now we're in it.
boy.
All right.
I was
Here
afraid we were
go.
going to get here.
Well, we're getting there. Barbara
afraid.
Joe, again, hero of Game Club, says, in fact,
Leo earmuffs.
here, I have a feeling he's spoiled a little bit. He fell asleep 30 minutes ago. Now that we know that Atreus is actually Loki, I'm more convinced that the brief glimpse at his dark side is a setup for his character in the future games. The wall murals in Jotunheim show Kratos dying in his arms while he's still a child. It makes me think Kratos will die in the next game, and that's when Odin will take Atreus in and call him Loki. We already know that Odin will change people's names when it suits him from that bit of lore we get from Mimir about Frigg and Freya. The game after that will probably be Atreus getting revenge on Odin and the crew. Not so much speculation, but what do you guys think about the murals in particular?
They were setting, they showed the Loki story.
It was intense. It was
And
cool.
yeah, at the end, it does show Kratos, giving birth to the world serpent. Is that correct?
There was something coming. It looked like words coming out of them. I was confused about what that was as well.
That was my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
I tried to get a closer look at it, and it was just impossible. They covered it back up with the cloth.
Someone did write in. I forget if
Gotta
it's
get that photo mode.
I will say that whole mural
Make him smile at it.
thing reminded me of the end of Cabin in the Woods for some reason. It was just like, hey, this has all been fated to happen. This is like cycles or whatever. And like we very clearly inscribed our entire history on this wall.
Interestingly enough, I read somewhere that mural is in fact mirrored at the beginning of the game. You can actually see it during
really?
the stones near the house. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Which would have been Faye kind of.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's a little spoiler.
Hey, whoa.
Hey, don't spoil the game.
Not the entire mural, just like just like a chunk of it.
Get mad at Faye because she spoils
She
the
was
game for
working
you.
at it at home.
That's why
Brought her
she's
work
dead.
home.
All right.
Faye was a Twitter troll.
Yeah. On the mistletoe front, real quick, Thor from California. Interesting.
Hey, Thor.
We know
Points
he
out
was
that
coming. California.
they knew about the mistletoe thing and Baldur because of Hellblade, because they mentioned it in Hellblade.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
So like, just playing through
that's
that,
cool.
it's like, oh, there's a nice little spoiler.
Norse mythology is where it's at, man. Forget Lovecraft. We got
F you,
going to
Lovecraft.
Norseland.
If you're listening, turn the
You're right.
podcast off. Matt says,
Don't spoil it.
hopefully this email comes after you've all finished. It is. It did. I was so happy the game kept it to just Baldur and Magni and Modi. The smaller scale with Kratos not fighting all the gods yet was a great way to start a new story. I think my biggest takeaway, though, especially after many thoughts on the opening, is how Kratos remarked that Baldur was tracking Faye's ashes. When Baldur approached the cabin, he actually doesn't know anything about Kratos, or perhaps very little. My reasoning is that he says, I thought your kind were so enlightened. Which, after beating the game, I took it to mean the giants of Jotunheim.
Oh, yeah.
They could foresee events and left Midgard. Baldur was just trying to find a way to Jotunheim for Odin. Anyways, to wrap it up, I'm sure by the end of the game, the Norse gods have some idea about Kratos. Yeah, that's a good question. Is when... Because I think that's right. I
That
think
was
the
my
idea
interpretation as well. In fact,
is
that
that-
was one of my predictions, I think, that he was there for Faye.
But you said that she was a god.
I did.
Yeah.
So I was wrong about that.
I thought he was talking
She's
about
close.
like, the Greeks being enlightened.
Yeah, I thought that was the take two, but it is
At the
interesting
time,
to think
yeah.
about. Now,
in retrospect,
he thought that Kratos was a giant.
It's definitely feasible. Like that would be the read. Instead
Yeah.
of gods.
Speaking of feasible, you think that Faye Fi Fo Fum thing is relevant at all with Faye being a giant?
No.
What? That's so bad.
It's also weird. Like, do you guys get a sense of why,
God.
like Kratos and Faye's history at all? Like, I don't feel
Yeah.
like they really explore that at
I
all.
think
Like, why?
intentionally it's been left.
Like Faye at some point had to realize like this guy killed everyone in Greece. Basically,
That's exactly my point. That I think that there's a big opportunity for there to be another grand design on top of this entire layer. That will,
I mean, Kratos
that Faye
did-
was using
that-
Kratos.
yes, very possible.
That's interesting.
Kratos told Atreus that she knew my true nature. Like, she knows
Yeah.
who he is.
So, well, that's why I'm
but I
saying,
love
like,
that he was
why?
kind of pissy about him not knowing her. Like, I did not know that.
Like,
Yeah.
but what, like
Ooh.
the thing they don't get, to, like, it was just kind of like a running question in the back of my head. Is like, why does Faye like this guy? Like, why
Yeah.
would she,
she wants to
choose
help
to
him, probably. Save him.
I don't know.
fix him?
don't
I think I
that
can
at all.
fix him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
So-
In the first half of the game, did they set up? Was there a line where it's like, not all giants are huge?
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Atreus.
Yeah,
said that
because
specifically.
even Kratos, like, he was confused. Like, he's like, this is not a big enough tunnel for a giant.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
remember,
that's
Atreus
right.
like laughed, and he's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, you're being serious. I'm always serious. Remember, that was that whole
Right.
dialogue.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
speaking of that setting where they spread the ashes, like looking into the distance and
So
seeing all the
cool.
giants.
Yeah, that was
the
really
first like
awesome.
little
So
glimpse of
cool.
it is like, is that what I think it is? Oh my god!
Yeah.
And I love that we even talked about in the first half that like they set up that Faye's entire family died Yeah. So it's like, oh, it's her entire race has died.
Yeah, I really like just looking out over that and being like, holy hell,
Yeah.
that looks awesome.
Richard Shaw writes in with an interesting thought piece here saying, the big piece for this God of War is that any place you can go, climb, jump, etc., is marked by gold markings. And at the end of the game, you find Faye's signature markings are gold as well, which means she was leading you where you needed to go. The game starts with a gold handprint and ends with Faye's gold ashes.
So she's the one that leaves white paint on ledges?
That's the question. In the Uncharted series as well. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is interesting. And
It is interesting.
I haven't heard Santa
Take
Monica
place in the
address
same
it.
universe.
Do you guys believe that?
I think that lends even more credibility
I
to
think
the
we-
fact that
I
this
like
has all
it.
been a setup of some kind.
I mean,
better
I
or
like
worse.
it. I like the theory. I think it's interesting.
Except for when they use that mechanic in the second game.
Right. Then we got a problem.
Yeah.
Well, this time they're red.
Okay, Dan. Richard Shaw also
Yeah.
writes in. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go, Dan. This is what you want to talk about.
Is
Here
it?
we go.
Is it?
Playing through the game again has shown that there are quite a few nods to the huge spoiler that Kratos' son is Loki. For instance, Mimir states that the world serpent fought Thor during Ragnarok and is thrown back in time, which is present day. Mimir also
Yes.
states that the world serpent recognizes Kratos' son but can't place him. It's because he sees him in the future because Loki causes Ragnarok. And the idea that then Atreus is the world serpent's dad, maybe? If
That's
they
what
do that?
exactly. That's what I was saying. Like
Yeah.
that's the what I got out of that interpretation of the image that we get to see for like 5 seconds. That was Kratos dying, giving birth to the world serpent.
Yeah.
I have a quick important note about the world serpent.
Can I finish this real quick?
Mine's
Also-
pretty important.
Okay,
Okay.
do it.
When Mimir calls the world serpent and speaks with him, it reminded me of Dory talking to whales and Finding Dory.
That was essential. I could not have lived without
Look,
doing that.
I know your mind is blown here.
How could you spoil that for me?
I'm going to applaud myself on that one. Thank you.
Kyle,
my
you
God.
did it.
I'd like to thank my love of that film and my love of God of War overlapping.
Anyways, I was trying to read Richard Shaw's
Yeah, can we get back to
email.
this? This is
Yeah.
interesting.
He says, when Kratos finds the stone... when Kratos finds a stone that will get them to Jotunheim, it doesn't activate. But once Loki touches it, it activates because he's a frost giant.
Makes sense.
The thinking there. Also, of all the people that wrote in, also not one person mentioned going inside of the world serpent as like a memorable moment.
It's too bad because I really liked it.
I thought it was cool.
It was
a little
brief.
short-lived.
It was brief, and the boat didn't do it for me in general, as I've stated. But that part was cool. It's always cool to go inside of a huge monster, and we didn't. I was
agree.
like, I was hoping to fight it.
And I
but-
love like what's Baldur doing? Just like kicking him in the ribs from the outside.
Yeah.
Like when it started to shake, it was like, what is happening outside?
Yeah. It must have been nostalgic for Kratos after the first boss of the first game. You go inside.
Oh, is that right?
Do you think he leaves the world serpent leaves that entire little puzzle area where you can traverse? Do you think that's on purpose, or did he just swallow it on accident?
I think it's on purpose.
Yeah,
Everything's
okay.
according to design.
I'm going to test anyone I eat.
It is really
Faye
weird.
fed him specific things.
Yeah.
That was
Eat this first, then eat this one.
I was so confused about like, yeah, why is a world serpent like eating Thor's statue?
He was
like,
mad at Thor.
I understand that, but like to wait so long, then to be like, actually, no.
He was sleeping.
Just
He woke
like-
up. He's like, yeah, I got a bad hangover. You know.
Okay.
There's also a weird thing with like Mimir where he's talking about sort of like ancient tales of like, oh yeah, and at some point Ragnarok is gonna come for us all. Like the way he speaks about the entirety of a legend before it plays out.
Yes.
Was that a little weird for you guys?
I loved it.
I think that is. I think that's canonical with Norse mythology.
Is it?
I'm
Wait,
pretty sure.
is Norse mythology
Norse
canonical with reality?
Yes.
Oh my
Didn't you
God.
know it happened?
I had no
It
idea.
was like a couple thousand years ago, but it happened.
Really?
They just made a movie about it.
Yeah, they did.
I love that idea, Dan. That's one of my favorite things of the game is like the bending of time. Like even in hell, when they're like time's going slow here.
Yep.
But then also, yeah, Mimir's big into saying like, oh yeah, this is showing something that did happen or will. It's all kind of a blur. It's
like
all
he
it's all the
answers,
same.
and years and years from now, this will happen or whatever.
Well, here
Speaking
we
of
go.
years for years now.
Jimmy Bedell has exactly a question for you, Suriel. Will you shave your beard? No. What is your craziest prediction? I'm starting to subscribe to the theory. This is going around. It's interesting that
right.
Kratos is Tyr. We know that the world serpent, which others are speculating is Kratos given his ashen color, beard, and red stripe. It's
Wait,
odd.
what?
People say maybe the world serpent himself is Kratos. We know the world serpent was knocked back in time after Thor fought him in Ragnarok. Could the same happen to Kratos? It would make sense that he would make an elaborate vault that only he could figure out, and that he would be a sympathizer to the giants, given his wife's ancestry.
Wow, that's
wow,
really
Well,
pushing it. But hey.
Tyr
I like
spelled
it.
backwards is right. So I think this guy is right.
Oh, there is. It's interesting. There's a moment that I wrote down where when you're talking about flipping the temple, Mimir says, well, who knows? Perhaps you and Tyr are the same kind of mad. When talking about like how that would make sense.
And it does seem really coincidental that he would keep the one Grecian urn that he happens to pick up as, his.
Right. And there is that mural where you see Tyr walking across the bridge and surrounded by the other symbols, which you mentioned, that a lot of people
Yes.
wrote in about. And so it's like, well, when did Tyr do that? Or is that because it's Kratos and that's why it's called God of War, because Tyr was the God of War and they're trying to connect that even more together?
I like that idea.
It could get done, but man, that's a tough thing.
It would be it would be like the best way to kind of put a cap on Kratos' character. Like that, how else could he redeem himself other than
Then you have a really
that,
that gets really troublesome.
It's cool though. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, I as a rule don't like it when time travel is used as a device, but all right.
But
I might be down for this.
I think this is different than time travel.
It is.
It's
different.
The
It's different
nebulous
than like Doctor
mythological
Who.
time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it's so much more
fate
interesting.
and like where fated moments occur and things.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. I like
Nicholas
that theory.
Lai writes in and says, what are your thoughts on Tyr visiting other pantheons? Corey Balrog recently stated that 5 more games are planned, at least for him, in the Kotaku interview. The next game will probably still have Norse as its focus, but what other mythology do you want to see first?
No, I think they gave us the answer to that. It's literally on that
Celtic,
thing. So we
Shinto,
got
and
Celtic,
Egyptian.
Shinto, and Egyptian.
Yeah,
Celtic
which
would
one
be
do you
cool.
want to see first?
Celtic, I know the least about.
Egyptian.
So I think that would be
Say
interesting.
Shinto.
Egyptian, please.
We all have different answers.
Yeah, I think Shinto. In terms
It's
of
just the one you've seen the least. I've seen the
Yeah.
least.
I think Egyptian, because it was their second choice for this game, it's probably going to be the next.
Yeah.
And they even have that line where Ramirez
Shinto would be-
talking about the gods.
Shinto
And he's
would
like,
be
that's not that
crazy.
easy. They're not all good. But Shinto, I don't really know too much about.
Dude, all those Japanese demons. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Surprised there wasn't any
Wild.
like mention of like Hindu gods or anything like that
Well,
in that mural.
I think Smite made that mistake, right? I think they're scared.
That's
Yeah.
They're scared, which sure,
That's
fine.
cowards.
Let's not use the not scared, but
Sensitive.
they have to be. Yeah.
What I would want more than anything, and I think it's another one that's maybe touchy and tough in several different ways, but I would love Native American mythology.
Yeah, again, you got to be really careful.
You got to be careful, and
You
then
gotta
it's
be careful
also
about it with all of it. I mean,
yeah,
You do, but
you
there
do.
are some that have just become accepted because they've been just so laced into popular culture outside of the religious implications.
Although I think if there were a cross on that thing, I just would have lost my mind. Just like, okay, what?
now that
that's
would
an
be
old one,
to
untouchable.
Hanson's point, it's like a weird, unique opportunity to learn more about these sort of histories. You know,
Yeah.
But it's like that's one where it's like, okay, who do you choose? Do we just focus on the Sioux? I don't know, which tribe in particular, because it's all over the map. Nate McClellan says, I'm glad they didn't end the game with Kratos dying. I feel like that would have been too familiar and cliche. If the sequels do let you play as Atreus, I think it'd be an interesting dynamic to have Kratos be alive and Atreus asking for his father's advice. So I assume the whole of Norse mythology will be after them for killing Balder, Modi, and Magni.
So Kratos just becomes the Mimir character. He cut off his head and he's walking around.
I don't know if I could deal with that.
text his dad all the
He
time.
has to stop and slow down, put his ear in.
Yeah.
Kratos talks to him.
Dad, send me some money.
I would imagine where it's going to go, going back to Jimmy and his craziest prediction thing, is Freya's pissed. Freya teams up again with Odin,
Or
which I never thought she would do.
I cannot see that.
Okay, maybe not. Okay,
Get back together, maybe.
As a way to get back at Kratos.
Will they?
So,
Won't
like,
they kill Kratos? Yeah.
Well, I think what they would do is they would steal Atreus, give him to Odin, and then it's basically a hook situation. You know, where like Peter Pan's kids start to forget the old one, and so Atreus starts to fall into the spell of Odin, and like, I am Loki, I am powerful, and Odin's like empowering him in that way, like, you're a powerful god, your father never let you push you to your limits, he never go into your baseball games, run home, Jack.
I can see that. I don't like it because that just seems like too easy and too cliche. Like that's
Yeah?
yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know.
it's gonna
See,
be?
they surprised me with this one.
Yeah.
So I want that again. Like, don't let me see it coming.
Okay.
Whatever it is. So don't do the whole like Odin, Darth Vader, dark side. I've turned you now. Now it's gonna be. I'd rather not see that.
I would say I would say in the next game there's probably way more emphasis on Thor than anything else because like you killed his immediate kids and also there's like that scene right.
We
at the
know
end.
Thor is coming.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
like,
we all saw that scene, right?
Yeah. Shay?
Shay, did you?
I don't know what scene you're talking
You gotta go to
about.
sleep.
I love it.
You gotta go
Okay,
to
so it's
sleep.
so cool. You go
Sorry,
around,
man,
you can do
I'm
side
sorry.
quests after you finish it, and I love. It took me a while before I was like, yeah, I should go home.
They tell you to do it. That's
Yeah.
why I did it. The dwarves literally say, "Go home." I'm
You
like,
should
okay.
go home. Yeah,
I'll go home.
There's
So you
a
go there.
cool cutscene there.
You fall asleep in the bed. You wake up. By the way, on the way home, I love the idea that the dwarves are arguing about whether or not it's Fimbulwinter. Like, it's
Yes.
just snow. No, it's Fimbulwinter.
It's
It's
Fimbulwinter, yeah.
more than that. Anyway, so then you go all the way home, fall asleep. I love just the idea of them being awake all this time and then finally getting rest. And then it says years later.
They wake up in the same outfit.
Yeah, real
Yeah.
quick, by the way, that would have been a very easy, like, just give them a different outfit. Because it
Yeah.
really looks like they've just been
It's
asleep
a
for
dream.
years.
It's a dream, so it's okay.
Corey in spoiler interviews and stuff, he's talked about like that. It's Atreus' dream. That years in the future.
Atreus says it's a dream, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they look exactly the same. But you go outside and Thor's standing out there.
Oh.
And he's like all hooded.
In the
and
most, you can tell in
badass.
case
You don't know who
like,
it is at first,
They
and then
just
you
give
see
you like
Mjolnir.
recurring hint after hint of just like there's lightning and he's there in a
Lightning wakes
cave,
them
and then
up.
he literally asks, "Who are you?" And then like instead of saying anything, he just reveals his hammer.
He brandishes it like a guy, like
Yeah.
a cowboy in a revolver. It's like, here's
Yeah.
Mjolnir.
And then he took his driver's license.
It's like,
from California.
here's my social security number.
It's actually really cool. You should go check it out.
It is very cool.
Yeah, I
And it
did not
doesn't
do
it doesn't
that.
end the game too, which is nice.
Right.
Like you wake up, you basically I think you see more credits, and then you're back in the cabin, and Trace is like, I had a weird dream that I saw a dude with a hammer, and Kratos is like,
it's just a
shut
dream.
up.
Yeah.
Well, he said it's just his dream. It's like, nah,
Shut
it
up,
felt
boy.
more like it felt like more than a dream.
Yeah.
The weird thing, though,
All right, let's go collect some crap.
Fimbulwinter Ragnarok timing gets confusing, right? Because they're saying like it can't be Fimbulwinter. It was supposed to be. It was like a legend that was supposed to come in 100 winters. But the idea that this is the extreme winter now, like Kratos, somebody says that Kratos maybe
It's
Mimir-
accelerating it.
It's accelerating it, and he changed it. So Ragnarok's coming now because Fimbulwinter's right now. But then in that Thor scene, I think at some point they say like the snow's dying down, Fimbulwinter didn't happen, or
Maybe
there's
maybe
something
it
like
could
that.
be post Ragnarok. You know.
No, there's something about like how Fimbulwinter ended or Fimbulwinter didn't happen. I could have sworn there was something like that
I don't know.
to make it seem like it was cooling again in the future, so it wasn't like full on Ragnarok Fimbulwinter stuff.
Interesting.
Dan, you remember how good Fimbulwinter is in Age of Mythology? Like all the wolves come
Yeah,
out and
yeah,
eat
it's-
every villager.
It's an ultimate, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's crazy.
Chris, boy,
Chris Cabal.
friend of the show,
Friend of the show.
greatest Game Informer community member, old Chris K himself. Don't forget his name, Kochon.
I couldn't forget it. He's a great guy.
And
I've
you
hung
remember
out
how to
with him
pronounce his
so
name?
many times. No, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm sorry.
Mr. Cochran himself says, "Hello, Hanson and Company. A lot has been made of what's going to happen in the sequels when Atreus is a playable character and such, but I got to ask, do you think we're going to go back to ancient Greece?
No.
With all the Athena callbacks and the boat ride and Kratos talking about how Atreus was named after a soldier in the Spartan army, I feel like a lot could be gained from a lore perspective if Kratos and Atreus journey back there somehow.
I don't. They have so many other great places to go.
Yeah.
There's no reason to.
I think Atreus, as the main character, by like that 5th game Corey has planned, will go back and try and like revive Greece.
Okay,
It
so
would be
that's if
exciting.
5
Yeah.
games actually happen. Okay, that's
Right.
just like we're
Right.
very in the theoretical space here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think Loki's going to be. You're going to play as him in one of these games for sure. Like,
Next
like-
one?
Like, I hope so, but I don't think so. We
don't
got
think so either.
I think we kill Odin as Kratos, and then
Yeah.
then
I would love to go back to Greece. I think that'd be really cool because at the end of God of War 3, it's like it's just apocalypse over there.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to revisit it, but yeah, I don't think they will. Though.
Flowers sprouting. Natalie from Felixstowe, UK says, "Can't wait to hear you guys have. Can't wait to hear how you guys have been getting on with the game and whether this is your 2018 game of the year,
I have an announcement.
or do you think something, or do you think something will beat it?"
This is currently my 2018 game of the year, which is crazy for a console game. Like I think it's only happened with Bloodborne.
A
and
baby
that's it.
game, please.
Yeah.
And Tomb Raider.
Console games for babies.
And Tomb Raider, dang. But that's on PC too, so it doesn't count.
Uncharted 4.
That was my game of the year.
I know.
It's my pick so far, but we still have like Red Dead 2 and Spider-Man and things like
I
that
would be
coming.
shocked if anything tops it for me.
Red Dead 2 looks
I think
really good.
it's doable. It's very doable for those 2 games for
Let
me.
me put it this way: if anything can do it, Red Dead's got a good.
I love
Did you
this
see
game.
the trailer? Did you see that trailer?
Yeah.
I liked it.
saw it.
I
we
liked it a
talked
lot.
about it earlier.
I wish I could see
Right.
literally any gameplay, but
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
What about Smash?
Smash. I mean that is certainly a contender for top
Smash.
5. I mean, who knows?
It's short for Super Smash Brothers.
I know what it is, but
The greatest multiplayer
All right.
game
I mean,
ever made.
if it really shocks me, maybe Smash. If I have like the best time ever with my friends,
It would
but
have
it's
to-
so tough to top this. So tough.
I think it's very doable for those 2 games that I mentioned.
and I also think that there is the chance
me.
for there's dark horse candidates that we haven't even seen that are going to come out this year that won't be revealed till E3.
But yeah, to
Yeah.
your immediate question though, for me, it is the best game I've played so far this year. Yeah, definitely.
I still think Dragon Ball edges it out for me, but
Wow.
I think
Edgelord.
I think this has already started where I'm liking it more the more I think about it. So there's a chance that like by the end of it, it's like, you know what, God of War actually was better than I initially gave it credit for. But
Yeah.
I've had more fun with Dragon Ball so far. But yeah, Red Dead and a couple others are.
Spider-Man,
What is that
very
face you're
exciting.
making?
good.
Spider-Man is really
Spider-Man
looking
is
good.
There
There is Spider-Man.
there are other candidates, but yeah, right now it is the focus.
Yeah. Matt from Ohio says, as the credits started rolling last night, I felt like Christmas was over. You know that first day back to school or work after you spend an entire break gaming? I've had such a great time playing this game. I truly want to spend more time in the world. I noticed there are still areas not accessible to players, like in the little realm hunter thing. Yggdrasil, it's called. Is there a plan for DLC moving forward? Are these realms to be explored in the future of the series? I don't want to wait 3 or 4 more years for the next installment.
So didn't they say there wasn't going to be?
Yeah, I
thought that was pretty clear.
I think you're going to be stuck 3 years for the next installment. I think is even generous.
2 years.
Maybe.
We have to assume that they already got started on it. And
Yeah. I mean, they have the
3 years, maybe.
2 years.
They have the framework of like
2 years,
the way
call
the
it now.
game works, though. So I think that they could turn
2
it on a
years.
lot faster.
No way. I
Quicker
will.
than 5.
Dan, how long do you think?
2 years.
Okay.
No way.
Really? I don't think that's an insane
I think it's.
estimate.
I will
it's
bet
right.
a lot of money right
bang
now.
on.
2020 release,
That's what I said.
launch of PS5.
Hey, I didn't say. Whoa, I didn't say anything about the launch of PS5.
Which I
Well,
heard you. I heard you.
But you know what? That would be killer, right? To have that at
Yeah.
launch. That's.
God of War 2,
I think it's the PS4 swan song.
No.
God of War 2
No
came
way.
out significantly after the
was like
release of
2007.
PlayStation 3.
Oh, you're right.
So, like,
You're right.
it might still.
I think it's PS4 swan song, and we get God of War whatever remastered on PS5.
Trevor Johnson, final question.
The
You ready?
final question.
Wait,
ready?
I forgot about Yakuza 6. That could also be. My
Oh, really?
Ooh,
Yeah, interesting.
I'm liking it.
I haven't played that yet. So
Final verdict. Is Kratos a good dad?
No.
He's not a great person. He's a good
Eventually,
dad. Oh, that's actually a good answer.
No.
Eventually.
I don't think so.
I think he was getting his
No.
sea legs early on, and then he eventually
You guys
learned.
are parents. You don't get it.
I know.
It is
I
hard to raise a child.
And because of that, I almost didn't want to weigh in, but I decided to anyway.
I think that he is a bad parent who is trying to do better.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can do, guys. Is
Doesn't
just
mean
be
you're
the
a
best
good
you
Isn't
can
that what
be, even
everybody
if
is
you're
when they
He's
first
so
have a
withholding with praise.
Hang on.
That's
If
not
he
enough,
just
Kyle.
said he loved me, I mean Atreus.
Look, I know this game club's going long, but we should all talk about our daddies, right?
Oh my gosh, this is going on.
Dan, how's your dad?
He's doing well.
Okay, great. Thank you to everybody that wrote in, podcast@gameforward.com. These emails have been fantastic. I read every one. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of them. Leo in the booth really liked the sound of this, so let's do it again. There we go. That is the honorary ending of the cutting of the ribbon for Game Club.
Leo didn't want to finish the game.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much to everybody on this table. Thank you to the community. Thank you to Santa Monica for working hard on this game. Thank you to Sony for cranking out the big bucks for this game to happen.
Yep.
Good God.
They did a
it's
good
crazy.
job.
Amazing job. Savor it while it lasts. Okay, and that's it for this overall episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.